Chapter 1930. Dark Cultivation Orchid. Brat, you've improved a lot, haven't you? You haven't even become a heaven god yet, but you're already able to kill a peak stage heaven god. Looks like you've successfully possessed Devour. The instant the broken sword dodged Zhuowen's right foot, Xiao Hei's voice rang in Zhuowen's mind. Zhuowen withdrew his right foot, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He knew that Xiao Hei should be inside this broken sword. However, what puzzled Zhuowen was that this broken sword was extremely broken, so how did Xiao Hei enter this broken sword? And what about blood splatter 5 steps? Perhaps Xiao Hei understood Zhuowen's doubts, so he explained, Brat, don't underestimate this broken sword. If I'm not wrong, this sword is probably a powerful virtual sky realm cultivator's divine object. It's just that it's a bit broken now, but it's still much stronger than ordinary heavenly god tools. Zhuowen was startled, and a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. How could a virtual sky realm cultivator's divine object exist on this insignificant dark star? Moreover, this broken sword didn't have any aura at all. It was simply a broken sword. What about blood splatter 5 steps? Zhuowen asked. Xiao Hei said somewhat awkwardly, blood splatter 5 steps has already been refined and integrated into this broken sword. Brat, if you pull this broken sword out, I can help you completely refine this broken sword and make it yours. Zhuowen sighed softly. Blood splatter 5 steps had helped him a lot in the past. Thinking about how it had already been integrated into this broken sword, Zhuowen couldn't help but feel somewhat regretful. Let me try. Zhuowen didn't doubt Xiao Hei's words. He had gone through thick and thin with Xiao Hei for many years, so he knew very well that Xiao Hei wouldn't harm him. Holding the sword hilt, Zhuowen suddenly exerted force. Immediately after, he was shocked to find that the broken sword was stuck in the ground and didn't move at all. Brat! This sword is very heavy. If you use all your strength, Devour Larva's strength shouldn't be so little, right? Xiao Hei suddenly said. Hearing this, Zhuowen no longer held back. Blue veins bulged on his right hand as a vast and terrifying aura gushed out from Zhuowen's body. He had used all of Devour's power. Rumble. Suddenly, the entire gully began to tremble violently. The black flames within the gully continued to wreak havoc, turning into a black firestorm. With Zhuowen as the center, the storm continued to spread out in all directions. What's going on? Let's leave quickly. These black flames aren't something we can resist. That cultivator must have found something in the gully, otherwise it would have been impossible for the black flames in the gully to become so violent. The pupils of the cultivators who were originally surrounding the ravine shrank as they flew up and scattered in all directions. Cultivators below the late heavenly god stage would basically be unable to escape from these black flames. Therefore, these cultivators naturally fled without a trace. Zhuowen lifted the broken sword with great difficulty. Soon after, he found a line of blood flowing out from the hilt of the broken sword. It flowed through his palm and entered his body. Then, he felt that he and the broken sword were connected by blood. Moreover, he really did feel the aura of blood splashing 5 steps from the broken sword. Xiao Hei was right. Blood splashing 5 steps had merged with the broken sword. After the line of blood entered his body, he found that the originally unbearably heavy broken sword was as light as a feather. Whoosh! Whoosh! At the same time, the countless longswords stuck in the ground in the gully all flew out. As the black firestorm soared into the sky, they all scattered, causing the black firestorm to become even more violent. Zhuowen, leave this place immediately. That Dark Star Lord has probably already sensed us. That guy is a false true god. He's much stronger than a peak heavenly god, Xiao Hei suddenly said anxiously. Zhuowen didn't even think about it. He followed the eye of the black firestorm and flew up into the sky. The black firestorm was too intense. Looking from the outside, it was as black as ink. It was impossible to see Zhuowen's figure clearly inside. Whoosh! A terrifying wind-breaking sound suddenly swept over from afar. Wherever it passed, wind and thunder intertwined and space cracked. An unimaginably powerful aura followed the wind-breaking sound. The cultivators who were hiding from the black firestorm were shocked. It's Dark Star Lord, Enshilan. I didn't expect that even he would personally take action. Although the wind-breaking sound was still far away, when the terrifying aura spread over, someone immediately recognized the owner of the aura. Zhuowen continued to rise within the storm of black flames. His powerful consciousness immediately sensed the terrifying aura that was rushing over from afar. So powerful. Is this a false true god? Zhuowen was shocked. After killing Wuxia, who was at the peak of the divine realm, Zhuowen didn't think much of the so-called false true gods. But now, when Enshilan rushed over aggressively, Zhuowen felt the terrifying aura. He immediately knew that there was still a certain gap between him and a false true god. Go! Zhuowen kicked with his right foot. His whole body was covered in purple light and his speed increased sharply. With his current speed, he could quickly sweep out of the eye of the black firestorm and leave the dark star. No matter how fast Enshilan was, he couldn't catch up with Zhuowen. In the distance, Enshilan, who was dressed in armor, stared coldly at Zhuowen who was escaping in the black firestorm. The corner of his mouth was full of coldness. He clenched his right hand and muttered something. Boom! Suddenly, the ravine where the black firestorm was located collapsed. Then, the cultivators around the ravine were shocked to find that there were countless primordial spirits emerging from the ravine. They also found that these primordial spirits all had the aura of a half-god. In other words, these primordial spirits were all half-gods when they were alive. But now, these primordial spirits' eyes were red and they had no consciousness to speak of. They all fearlessly rushed towards the black firestorm. This is the myriad god soul lock. Some of the surrounding cultivators recognized the strange formation that had suddenly appeared in the ravine. The myriad god soul lock was an extremely vicious formation. This formation required a half-god primordial spirit to activate. Through the accumulation of tens of thousands of primordial spirits, the myriad god soul lock would become extremely terrifying. It could lock the soul of any divine realm expert. Even a peak divine realm expert would find it difficult to escape. This myriad god soul lock is still lacking a few primordial spirits. It's not complete. But even a peak divine realm expert could be frozen by it. It's a vicious and terrifying formation. A cultivator sighed softly. He knew that after the myriad god soul lock formation was activated, that cultivator would not be able to escape. Sure enough, the originally terrifying black firestorm stopped spinning after being surrounded by countless primordial spirits. The eye of the storm was also blocked by countless primordial spirits, blocking Zhuowen's path of ascension. They're all half-god primordial spirits. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He quickly thought of Tanyu from the Dark Star. He knew that the half-gods that Tanyu had taken away probably had their primordial spirits extracted and placed in the formation below the ravine. Kid, this is the myriad god soul lock. That old bastard, the Dark Star Lord, specially set it up for this Lord Dragon. He wants to find this Lord Dragon. Fortunately, this Lord Dragon hid in this broken sword and concealed all of my aura. Otherwise, that old bastard might have found me. Xiao He could not help but curse. However, it's not that easy to trap this Lord Dragon. Kid, I'll let you see the power of this broken sword. Swing it. Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes lit up. Although the broken sword's appearance was ugly, he could feel the powerful aura contained within the broken sword. In an instant, Zhuowen slashed out with the sword. Then, he realized that the black firestorm that had stopped around him began to explode. Countless amounts of black firestorm overflowed. The countless primordial spirits that were attached to the black firestorm were all destroyed by this terrifying explosion. The black firestorm that reached the sky also completely collapsed, revealing Zhuowen's figure. After destroying the myriad god's soul lock, Zhuowen did not stay any longer. He stomped his right foot and did not reduce his speed, intending to leave the dark star. Unfortunately, when Zhuowen rushed out of the dark star, he realized that an invisible force had appeared between the dark star and the starry sky, preventing him from leaving the planet. "Break for me!" Zhuowen slashed out with his right hand and black flames surged out of the broken sword. The black flames spread from the sword to the broken sword and used the black flames as a medium to restore the broken sword into a complete black sword. However, the tip of the sword was just a ball of black flames and not the real sword tip. With one slash, the black flames spread and the transparent energy in front of him completely shattered. However, with Zhuowen's delay, Anxiolon had already caught up to him. With a flick of her finger, Anxiolon took out a 3-foot-long pair of black scissors and slashed at Zhuowen's waist in an attempt to cut him in half. Unfortunately, Zhuowen had already sensed it. He used the sword to pierce through the thorns and surrounded himself, forming countless thorns as a defense. Gotcha! The thistles and thorns simply couldn't withstand the dark cultivation orchid scissors and immediately crumbled inch by inch, turning into dust. Zhuowen stomped his right foot and dodged Anxiolon's attack. He stared at Anxiolon with fear. Anxiolon's black eyes stared coldly at Zhuowen and muttered in surprise, "Demigod? A mere demigod can dodge my attack." At this moment, Zhuowen did not retreat. This dark cultivator orchid's spiritual sense had already locked onto him. Moreover, this dark cultivator orchid's speed was not slow. Zhuowen knew that it was too late to escape now. "Hand over the broken sword in your hand and I will let bygones be bygones for killing my dark star palace." Anxiolon's eyes flashed as he spoke again. He could sense that Zhuowen was not a simple person. He even suspected that Zhuowen had an extremely powerful concealment technique on him, so much so that even he couldn't see through Zhuowen's cultivation base. She knew very well that people like him usually had a powerful background. Hence, she did not want to offend him. However, Zhuowen shook his head and said, "This broken sword was originally obtained by my weapon spirit. Now that I have refined it, it is impossible for you to take it away." Anxiolon frowned but quickly regained her composure and said, "If that is the case, then friend, you can leave. I will not make things difficult for you." Zhuowen was stunned. He didn't expect the dark cultivation orchid to be so easy to talk to. Moreover, after the dark cultivation orchid said those words, the divine sense that had locked onto him also disappeared. Clearly, the dark cultivation orchid really intended to let him go. "Thank you very much." Chapter 1931. Dark Moon. Sometimes these four figures had powerful auras. They were all peak heavenly gods. Moreover, the four of them moved in a mysterious footwork with swords in their hands. They formed a four-man sword formation and instantly sealed off Zhuowen's surroundings. At the same time, Zhuowen realized that Anxiolan's divine sense, which she had retracted, was once again locked onto him. At the same time, an ear-piercing sound came from behind him. Zhuowen immediately knew that Anxiolan had no intention of letting him go. She was probably just stalling for time. At the thought of this, Zhuowen immediately used the three sword techniques: sword-piercing brambles, first appearance of sword radiance, and sun in the sky. Countless sword shadows flew out and attacked the four-man sword formation. It had to be said that although the broken sword in Zhuowen's hand did not look like much, the Tao of Destruction sword technique was much stronger than the Iron Lu sword. Clearly, this sword was much stronger than the Iron Lu sword. Bang bang bang. Using the three sword moves at the same time, he managed to block the combined sword formation of the four peak heavenly gods. At the same time, Zhuowen turned around to face Anxiolan. At this moment, Anxiolan took out the extreme scissors again. The scissors cut through the space around Zhuowen and the space around him collapsed. A black fog spread out and formed a black net, trapping Zhuowen in it. Zhuowen squinted his eyes and used the Eye of Heaven's Devourer again. The purplish-black lightning exploded into countless strands and spread out, destroying the black net around him. At this moment, Xiao Lan's attack was about to land. Zhuowen raised his sword and a terrifying black flame burst out from the blade. Bang! Zhuowen groaned and retreated a dozen steps. On the other hand, Xiao Lan only retreated a single step and continued to charge at Zhuowen. This despicable Xiao Lan. This dragon lord has not completely merged with the broken sword and cannot fully unleash the sword's power. Otherwise, this dragon lord would have tortured him to death. The instant Zhuowen retreated, Xiao Hei's scolding voice rang out, boasting shamelessly. As the dark Azura flew over, Zhuowen silently calculated the distance between him and the dark Azura. When the dark cultivation orchid was only 20 meters away from him, and the giant scissors were just inches away, Zhuowen shot out another soul-absorbing god needle from between his eyebrows. This time, Zhuowen directly gave up on defense. Facing the attack of the scissors, he forcibly took out the soul-absorbing god needle. He was very clear that the dark cultivation orchid was not simple, and that was the only way to achieve an unexpected effect, and the dark cultivation orchid would fall for it. Bang! The black scissors landed on Zhuowen's waist and cut. A metallic sound was heard and Xiao Lan was surprised to find that the scissors were unable to cut through Zhuowen's waist. Whoosh! While Xiao Lan was in a daze, the soul-absorbing godly needle pierced through the air and pierced into her forehead. Poochie! A bloody hole appeared between Xiao Lan's eyebrows. However, Xiao Lan's reaction speed was shocking. The moment the soul-absorbing godly needle pierced her forehead, she used her right hand to clamp down on the soul-absorbing godly needle. Even so, the soul-absorbing godly needle was already halfway into her forehead. The terrifying power invaded her soul, causing Xiao Lan to let out a low growl, her face filled with pain. Xiao Lan threw away the soul-absorbing godly needle and immediately retreated with the black scissors. At this moment, her soul had suffered quite a bit of damage. Poochie! At the same time, Zhuowen was also heavily injured by the black scissors. That cut made him feel as if his organs were in a mess, and it was very uncomfortable. After retrieving the soul-absorbing godly needle, Zhuowen immediately left the Dark Star. Kill! At the same time, Zhuowen's 3 sword moves were broken by the 4 peak heavenly god cultivators. Seeing that Zhuowen was about to escape, the 4 of them instantly surrounded Zhuowen. Scram! Zhuowen was too weak at the moment and did not want to be entangled with the 4 of them. Furthermore, Xiao Lan's soul had been injured by him, making it difficult for her divine sense to lock onto him. This was the best time for him to escape. With a swing of the sword, the terrifying black flames in the form of a ring-shaped wave of qi hit the 4 people around him, causing them to lose their balance. The 4 of them were shocked, but the killing intent in their eyes was even stronger. The person in front of them was so powerful that he had to die. Therefore, they looked at each other and detonated their respective divine swords. At the cost of the explosion of their divine swords, they formed a trapping array around them. The dark moon appears. Suddenly, a low murmur came from the trapping array. Then, the 4 people outside the trapping array realized that a crescent moon had risen from within the trapping array. Bang! The moment the crescent moon rose, the trapping array was instantly destroyed. A figure suddenly rushed out and with a swing of his sword, the moon's shadow flickered. One of the cultivators was caught off guard and was confused by the flickering moon's shadow. Then, the sharp blade of the sword pierced through his forehead. After killing this cultivator, Zhuowen did not care about the other 3 peak heavenly god cultivators who were retreating in shock. He immediately took out his astrolabe and quickly left the Dark Star. By the time the 3 cultivators reacted, Zhuowen's figure had already disappeared from their line of sight. This battle was very short, but it was very exciting. Many cultivators around the ravine watched this scene in a daze. In the beginning, after Zhuowen killed 19 peak heavenly god cultivators in an instant, they had already overestimated Zhuowen's strength. But now, An Xiulan had led 4 peak heavenly god cultivators to intercept Zhuowen. Not only was 1 peak heavenly god cultivator killed, even An Xiulan's soul was severely injured. Everyone was secretly guessing who the young man who left was. Star Lord, are you alright? The 3 peak heavenly god cultivators immediately rushed to An Xiulan's side and asked worriedly. At this moment, the bloody hole between An Xiulan's eyebrows had slowly healed. However, An Xiulan knew that the soul-assimilating divine needle was not simple. There was an extremely strange power within it that specialized in destroying the soul. Only half of the needle had penetrated into his soul and it had already severely injured his soul. He could not imagine what would happen if the needle completely penetrated his soul. Even if he did not die, he would become an idiot. Let's go. An Xiulan said hatefully and immediately left the place. He had to go back and recover his soul. There was only a month and a half left before he went to the Burning Cloud region. He had to fully recover his soul before he went to the Burning Cloud region. Otherwise, he would be at a disadvantage when he went there. After leaving the Dark Star, Zhuowen directly returned to the pavilion in Long River Star capital. Little brother Long One, what happened to you? Xiang Mengchun happened to see the pale Zhuowen and could not help but ask in surprise. Zhuowen wanted to speak but he could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. When Xiang Mengchun saw this, she immediately took out a pill and stuffed it into Zhuowen's mouth. She said, "This is a level 3 divine pill, snow ginseng pill. Quickly consume it. It can completely suppress the injuries in your body." Zhuowen hesitated for a while but in the end, he still consumed the snow ginseng pill. Xiang Mengchun needed him to go to the Burning Cloud region. She would not harm him at this time. After consuming the snow ginseng pill, Zhuowen's injuries were slightly better. At least, it was not difficult for him to speak. Zhuowen knew that the snow ginseng pill was so effective that it must be valuable. He could not help but cup his fists at Xiang Mengchun. Pavilion Master Xiang, thank you. Xiang Mengchun waved her hand and asked curiously, "Little brother Long One, what happened to you? Why are you in such a sorry state?" Zhuowen smiled and said casually, "I met an enemy on the way and fought with him. After that, I killed him with great difficulty. However, I also suffered some injuries." "I see," Xiang Mengchun nodded but did not ask any more questions. After all, Zhuowen was only a demigod. His enemy was probably a demigod as well. She was not very interested in a battle between demigods. "Little brother Long One, there is not much time left before we go to the Burning Cloud region. You should recuperate in the pavilion for a while," Xiang Mengchun suggested. Zhuowen nodded. His injuries were not light now. Moreover, he had found Xiaohe. Naturally, he would not walk around casually. After entering the room arranged by Xiang Mengchun, Zhuowen entered seclusion training. At the same time, he also wanted to ask about the origin of this broken sword. Within the room, the broken sword was floating in front of Zhuowen. Zhuowen said solemnly, "Xiaohe, tell me about your experiences in these past few years. How did you manage to cross the starry sky with the blood-splashing 5 steps and arrive at the Dark Star?" Xiaohe sat on the broken sword's hilt. She sighed and said, "Actually, I found a stone tablet on the floating rocks near the heavenly armor star. That stone tablet actually contained the cultivation method of the divine sword. I immediately knew that the person who left behind the words on the stone tablet was definitely an almighty person. I trained on the rocks for 20 years and raised the blood-splashing 5 steps to a low-level heavenly divine artifact. Furthermore, I also learned the soaring sky technique. Even without an astrolabe, I was able to cross the starry sky with the soaring sky technique. After I mastered the soaring sky technique, the stone tablet shattered and only a few words were left behind. The general idea was for me to go to the Dark Star and find the Thunder Fire Sword. It was said that the Thunder Fire Sword contained the remaining inheritance. Thus, I entered the Dark Star and found the Thunder Fire Sword. However, all of this was a trap set up by the Thunder Fire Sword. The Thunder Fire Sword's artifact spirit actually wanted to devour me in order to strengthen itself. Fortunately, the Thunder Fire Sword's artifact spirit was too weak. We fought for several tens of years. Finally, half a month ago, I defeated the Thunder Fire Sword. However, because of that, the Thunder Fire Sword's artifact spirit disappeared. The concealment formation around the Thunder Fire Sword was broken and the location of the ravine was exposed. You should be able to guess what happened next. Many cultivators from the Dark Star came to search for the treasure. Even the people from the Dark Star Palace came. If it wasn't for the fact that this Master Dragon learned the secret technique to conceal his aura from the Thunder Fire Sword, I might not have been able to deceive them. Hearing Xiao Hei's narration, Zhuowen also roughly understood what Xiao Hei had experienced. However, he was surprised by the fact that this so-called Thunder Fire Sword's artifact spirit was actually able to cultivate on its own. Furthermore, it even knew how to deceive others to devour other artifact spirits. It was truly inconceivable. However, at the same time, he was also happy for Xiao Hei. He knew that Xiao Hei had obtained the Thunder Fire Sword's inheritance and was able to cultivate it. Her future prospects would definitely be limitless. Chapter 1932. Thunder Fire Sword. The divine sword cultivation method Xiao Hei talked about was very magical. It was said that after the weapon spirit cultivated, not only could it increase the level of the divine sword, but it could also have its own divine skills. In other words, Xiao Hei did not need Zhuowen to control it. It could control the Thunder Fire Sword and use all kinds of powerful divine skills. With the current level of the Thunder Fire Sword, if Xiao Hei completely absorbed and controlled the Thunder Fire Sword, it could unleash the power of a peak heavenly god. When the time came, if he teamed up with the Thunder Fire Sword, it would not be so difficult to face Dark Cultivation Orchid again. Xiao Hei, how long will it take for you to completely merge with the Thunder Fire Sword? Zhuowen suddenly asked Xiao Hei. Xiao Hei pondered for a while and said, more than a month. When the time comes, even a peak heavenly god would not be a match for me. Zhuowen nodded and put the Thunder Fire Sword into the spirit ring. This time, with Xiao Hei's help, he had more confidence in going to the Burning Cloud region in a month and a half. If he could find 9 stars in the Burning Cloud region, he could completely become a heavenly god. When the 4 Vice Star Lords worked together, Zhuowen did not need to worry about them. Even if it was a true god, Zhuowen was not afraid at all. While Zhuowen was in seclusion to heal, Panda sat in the hall with an ugly expression. Yu Rong and Zhou Wen knelt in front of Panda, not daring to even breathe. Young master, this has nothing to do with us. Last time, that guy at the Doya Pavilion was not simple. He had an extremely powerful illusion skill. The two of us fell for it and became confused, so. Yu Rong and Zhou Wen trembled as they spoke. Panda's expression was still ugly. He waved his hand and said, "Get up. Since the two of you fell for it so easily, I'm afraid that guy was not a demigod, but a wolf in sheep's clothing." Before Panda could finish his words, a black shadow silently landed in the hall. This was a middle-aged man with cold eyes. He was dressed in brown leather clothes and had a long saber on his back. He looked at Panda indifferently and did not have the slightest intention of saluting. Young Master Panda, Lord Pan Tian is going back in a few months. Are you going back to the Golden Sun Galaxy as well? The middle-aged man asked. Panda furrowed his brows and shook his head. I have to kill the bastard who humiliated me first. Also, Pan Hua, have you investigated the matter I asked you to do? The middle-aged man nodded and said, I've investigated. That person is called Long Wen. Right now, he's being protected by Xiang Mengchun. It's very difficult to kill him. Panda was displeased, and he said, Xiang Mengchun is just a peak heavenly deity, right? Could it be that a fake true deity like you is afraid of her? The middle-aged man sneered, Xiang Mengchun is not simple. Although she is only at the peak of the heavenly god realm, she is very powerful. Otherwise, do you think she would be able to establish such a large force in the main city? Panda was startled. Soon after, he gritted his teeth and took out a jade strip from his bosom. He said, this jade strip contains information about the fire spirit juice. If you can help me kill Long One, I will give you the information about the fire spirit juice. What? Fire spirit juice? Pan Hua instantly lost his calm. It was said that the fire spirit juice could increase the chances of advancing to the true god realm. It had unimaginable benefits for peak heavenly deities and fake true gods. Moreover, this item was extremely rare. It was a divine item that was priceless in the market. Once it was put on sale, it would basically be snatched up. Now, this panda actually knew where to find the fire spirit juice. Young Master Panda, give me the jade strip. I will think of a way to kill Long One. Pan Hua asked with a blazing gaze. Panda smiled and threw the jade strip to Pan Hua, saying, take a look. This time, the fire spirit juice is related to Long One. It is said that Xiang Mengchun from the Great Accord invited the 4 Vice-Star Lords to Blazing Cloud region to retrieve the fire spirit juice. I'm afraid that the reason why Xiang Mengchun is protecting Long One is related to the fire spirit juice. I'm afraid that she might even bring Long One to Blazing Cloud region. Pan Hua took the jade strip and glanced at the contents. He was getting more and more excited. He said, since Xiang Mengchun needs to use Long One, it's not easy to kill him now. However, after Long One is used up, Xiang Mengchun won't meddle in other people's business. Panda nodded and waved his hand. Pan Hua left. Obviously, he planned to stay in the Long River Galaxy to look for the fire spirit juice. 1.5 months later, Zhuowen's injuries were almost healed. It was actually thanks to the effect of the snow ginseng pill that Xiang Mengchun gave him. Moreover, Xiao He had completely merged with the Thunder Fire Sword. Although he wasn't sure how strong Xiao He could be, from Xiao He's proud expression, he could tell that it wasn't weak. At the same time, Zhuowen had also mastered the 4th move of the Destruction Dao sword art. The power of this sword move was stronger than it was a month ago. Zhuowen took out the Iron Lu sword and carried it on his back. Then, he walked out of the room. Outside the courtyard, Xiang Mengchun was looking at him with a smile. In the starry sky outside the Long River Galaxy, a slender rainbow flew over and stopped outside the Long River Galaxy. Upon closer inspection, the rainbow was an extremely luxurious flying ship, a divine artifact. 8 figures stood on the deck of the flying ship. 4 of the figures stood proudly at the bow of the ship, while the other 4 stood behind. They should be the subordinates of the 4 figures in front. An old man with a red face looked at the man in black armor beside him and said, "And Xiu Lan, I heard that 1.5 months ago, your soul was severely injured by a demigod. How could you be so careless?" The black-armored and Xiu Lan looked at the old man with a gloomy gaze and said, "Huashang, since when did you care so much? What does it have to do with you whether my soul is injured or not?" Huashang smiled faintly and said, "Of course it doesn't matter. I'm just curious. As the Dark Star's Star Lord, how could you be injured by a mere demigod? I always thought that it was just a rumor. Looks like it isn't. That guy isn't simple. If I'm not wrong, he should have a very powerful aura concealment technique. His true strength is above the peak of the Sky God stage, close to the pseudo-true God stage," and Xiu Lan said faintly. The white-haired woman looked at An Xiu Lan and said, "This is the first time I've heard someone like An Xiu Lan praise someone." An Xiu Lan said coldly, "I'll find that person and kill him with my own hands. Stop arguing. Xiang Mengchun is here." The tall man who had been silent suddenly spoke. Huashang, the white-haired woman, and in Xiaolan all fell silent and looked at the tall man with fear. At this moment, Xiang Mengchun landed on the deck with Zhuowen and said with a smile, "I've made the 4-star lords wait. Mengchun has sinned." Zhuowen, who was standing beside Xiang Mengchun, looked at the 4 people in front of him. He naturally knew in Xiaolan, and Xiang Mengchun had already introduced the other 3 to him. The red-faced old man was Mars Star Lord Huashang, the white-haired woman was Lunar Star Lord Taishang Shui, and the taciturn tall man was King Star Lord Han Wang. It has to be mentioned that King Star Master Han Wang is the most powerful of the 4 Vice Star Masters. The other 3 Vice Star Masters are extremely wary of him. Demigod? Pavilion Lord Xiang, can the person you brought really come in handy? Han Wang noticed Zhuowen beside Xiang Mengchun and frowned. Xiang Mengchun waved her hand and said, "Don't worry. Although Long Wen's cultivation is weak, his divine sense is extremely powerful. He's also very good at illusions. In the Grace Pavilion, he used illusions to confuse 2 mid-sky god stage cultivators." Zhuowen sighed in relief. Fortunately, he didn't use illusions on the Dark Star. Otherwise, an Xiaolan would definitely be suspicious. Confuse 2 mid-sky god stage cultivators. Not bad. Han Wang looked at Zhuowen and didn't say anything else. And Xiaolan, on the other hand, kept looking at Zhuowen as if she was trying to find something special about him. And Xiaolan, could it be that the one who injured your divine sense is this little demigod? Huashang suddenly said in a strange tone. And Xiaolan snorted and said, "This person's aura is completely different. It's not him. Last time, that person wasn't good at illusions either. No need to argue. This time, we're going to the Burning Cloud region for the Fire Spirit Juice. Everyone needs to work together. Otherwise, no one will be able to enter the Burning Cloud region." Han Wang said solemnly. With Han Wang's words, no one said anything else. Then, the ship started and left the Long River Star. Not long after the ship left, Pan Hu stood on his astrolabe and silently followed behind the ship. Pan Hu was very careful. The distance between him and the ship was very large. Even with the powerful divine sense of a false true god, it was difficult to detect him following behind. Half a month later, the ship arrived at the Burning Cloud region in the southern part of the Long River Star system. "So this is the Burning Cloud region." Zhuowen stood on the deck and looked at the huge region in front of him that looked like the Burning Cloud region. This region was very large, and it was filled with stars. Moreover, magma flowed around these stars as if they were on fire. It looked very strange. The Burning Cloud region is an extremely dangerous place. This region is made up of terrifying stars. The deeper you go, the more stars there are. The stars are also very powerful. Ordinary heavenly gods will die if they enter. A cold voice sounded. Zhuowen turned around and saw an ordinary-looking woman walk to Zhuowen's side. Zhuowen had some impression of this woman. She was following behind Taishang Shui. She must have been brought here by Taishang Shui. Although she was only an early-stage heavenly god, Zhuowen could feel that her soul was much stronger than ordinary heavenly gods. In other words, the cultivators brought by the 4-star lords all had powerful souls and knew how to use illusions. Perhaps they would need to use illusions to enter the Burning Cloud region. You're only a demigod. The chances of you dying in the Burning Cloud region are too high. You still dare to come? I don't know what to say. The woman looked at Zhuowen indifferently and left. Clearly, she didn't want to say anything to Zhuowen. What's your name? Although the woman's attitude wasn't very good, Zhuowen knew that she was reminding him. However, she didn't seem to be good at expressing herself, so she looked a little cold. Chapter 1933. Jiang Yanzhuowen silently glanced at the back of the woman who had left. Then, he shook his head and ignored her. With his current strength, if entering the fiery cloud region was courting death, then wouldn't the other cultivators below the true god realm be dead for sure? However, Zhuowen did not explain. This time, he planned to refine the 9 stars in the fiery cloud region. After advancing to the heavenly god realm, he planned to leave the Long River Galaxy and bring the heavenly armor star to the Great Brahma domain. Near the fiery cloud region, there were many floating meteorite continents. These continents were filled with many cultivators, and there were simple tents set up as simple shops to sell all kinds of things. Little brother Long One, these meteorite continents are the temporary gathering places of the fiery cloud region. Many cultivators will sell the useless things they obtain in the fiery cloud region here. At the same time, many cultivators will rest on the meteorite continents or prepare materials to enter the fiery cloud region. Xiang Mengchun said with a smile. At this moment, the spaceship had already landed on the nearest meteorite continent. Then, a group of people walked out of the spaceship. The temperature of the fiery cloud region is too terrifying. If you want to go deep, ordinary ice attribute pills won't have much effect. You have to buy the deep freeze ice jade here. After King Han finished speaking, he led everyone to the center of the continent. Here, there stood a tall cylindrical tower. King Han entered the tower alone and negotiated for a while, then came out again with 8 pieces of white jade in his hand and distributed them to everyone. Zhuowen took the white jade and discovered that it was actually emitting a dense cold qi. This cold qi was extremely unusual. After coming into contact with his skin, it actually penetrated deep into his meridians and adhered to the surface of his meridians. Let's go in. After distributing the deep freeze ice jades, Han Wang said, then led the 7 of them and rushed towards the burning cloud region ahead. There were many passages around the fiery cloud region. People were coming in and out of these passages, and it was quite lively. Bang! Suddenly, a cultivator who came out of the passage fell to the ground. This person's face was extremely red, and his eyes were bloodshot. His expression was extremely painful. Ah! The person got up and walked a few steps. Suddenly, he screamed. Flames emerged from his body and he was burned to ashes. The fire poison in this person's body was too strong, and he burned himself to death. Han Wang coldly glanced at the cultivator who burned himself to death. There was no pity in his eyes. And Xiu Lan, Tai Shangxue, and Huashang were also used to it. Little brother Longwen, you're weaker than me. Later, when we enter the fiery cloud domain, follow me closely. Also, when we enter the fiery cloud domain, don't use the deep freeze ice jade yet. First, use the ice soul pill I gave you. After you've finished the ice soul pill, use the deep freeze ice jade. Zhuowen nodded and silently followed behind Xiang Mengchun. From the expressions of King Han and the others, he could tell that they were extremely familiar with this place. It was probably not their first time in the fiery cloud region. Since they had been here before, but did not obtain the fire spirit juice, it should have something to do with the illusion they needed. Go. Go in. Han Wang skillfully chose a passage, and then the group of 10 people entered the passage. As soon as they entered the passage, a terrifying heat wave hit them in the face. The unbearably high temperature instantly spread to everyone's hearts. Han Wang, the 4-star lords, and Xiang Mengchun were fine, but the few people they brought were not as good. They all blushed. Although this heat wave did not affect Zhuowen did not want to attract attention. Naturally, he acted even more unbearably. He even took out the ice soul pill and consumed it. The woman behind Tai Shangxue was also resisting the heat wave. However, when she saw Zhuowen immediately taking the ice soul pill, she secretly shook her head. She knew that this time, Longwen would definitely die in the fiery cloud region. After walking out of the passage, a terrifying sea of fire spread over. Moreover, this sea of fire was accompanied by rolling magma. In just an instant, the surrounding temperature increased by hundreds and thousands. The rest of the people also took the ice soul pill and began to move forward in this sea of fire. Xiang Mengchun took good care of Zhuowen. While walking in the sea of fire, she would often take care of Zhuowen and resist most of the fire waves. Zhuowen passed through the sea of fire and found that they were actually walking between stars. Therefore, the sea of fire and magma accompanied this passage. This fiery cloud region was extremely strange. Not only were there stars, but the distance between stars was also extremely small. This also made it extremely difficult to walk in this fiery cloud region. The temperature of one star was already very terrifying. If 2 or even 3 stars were separated in the surroundings, the temperature released would be really terrifying. Ordinary divine realm experts would not be able to withstand it. No wonder there were people who were burned to death by fire poison. Moreover, Zhuowen also found that as they went deeper into the fiery cloud region, the quality of the stars became higher and higher, and the temperature became more and more terrifying. In the beginning, the stars were still somewhat dark red. However, as they went deeper, the stars began to glow golden and became purer. Zhuowen knew that stars were also divided into strong and weak. Since he wanted to refine 9 stars, he naturally had to choose the 9 stars with the highest quality and the largest energy in this fiery cloud region. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. After walking for about half a day, a sea of fire appeared in front of them. The sea of fire rolled. Pairs of fiery red eyes actually appeared in the sea of fire. Everyone be careful. There are fiery eyes Swanni in this sea of fire. They are extremely fast. Be careful not to be caught and dragged into the sea. King Han reminded. After that, he waved his sleeve and took out a scepter. He used his star divine energy to activate the scepter's power. A light blue light barrier surrounded King Han and the people he brought. The rest of the people also took out their divine artifacts to protect the cultivators they brought. Xiang Mengchun took out a green pearl. This pearl was overflowing with green. As soon as it was taken out, there was a cool breeze that hit him in the face. It was as if he was under the shade of a towering tree at this moment. This is a true god artifact. Zhuowen looked up and down at the pearl that Xiang Mengchun took out. His eyes revealed a hint of surprise. He had seen a true god artifact before. This green pearl's aura was much stronger than a divine artifact. It was definitely a true god artifact. After Xiang Mengchun took out the pearl, King Han, and Shilan, Huashang and Taishang Shui all looked at Xiang Mengchun with fear in their eyes. Zhuowen finally knew the main reason why Xiang Mengchun, a mere peak heavenly god, had the right to speak in front of the 4 star lords. It was probably related to the true god weapon. Pass through this sea of fire quickly. You must follow me closely. It will be troublesome if you lose me. King Han said in a deep voice. Then, he waved his sleeve and quickly rushed into the sky above the sea of fire. After that, Shilan, Huashang and the others followed closely behind. Xiang Mengchun was the last to depart. The moment the group appeared above the sea of fire, the pairs of eyes hidden in the sea of fire suddenly burst out with blazing light. Then, vigorous figures broke out of the water and charged towards the 10 of them. The strange beasts that came out of the sea of fire looked like lions. Their eyes were filled with fire. They were the fiery-eyed Swanni that King Han mentioned. The fiery-eyed Swanni's strength was around the mid-divine stage. However, the number of fiery-eyed Swanni that came out of the sea of fire was terrifying. They were densely packed like clouds of fire. When King Han and the others saw the terrifying number of fiery-eyed Swanni, their faces became more serious. As for the people that they brought, their faces were even paler. They weren't strong and were much weaker than King Han and the others. If they were surrounded by the fiery-eyed Swanni, they would definitely die. The 10 of them were extremely fast. They instantly passed through the sea of fire. However, when they reached the second half of the sea of fire, the number of fiery-eyed Swanni increased. Their speed suddenly decreased. King Han, and Shilan and the others used all their skills. However, the fiery-eyed Swanee fell from the sky like raindrops. Bang! Suddenly, a hole appeared in the light barrier around Taishang Shui. A fiery-eyed Swanee reached out with its right hand and pulled the woman out of Taishang Shui's light barrier. The woman's eyes were filled with fear. She quickly took out a flying sword and slashed at the fiery-eyed Swanee. Unfortunately, her strength was weaker than the fiery-eyed Swanee. The flying sword didn't cause much damage to the fiery-eyed Swanee. Instead, it angered the fiery-eyed Swanee. "Save me!" the woman shouted at Taishang Shui. Unfortunately, Taishang Shui couldn't even take care of herself right now. She simply couldn't spare any time to save this woman. Seeing that Taishang Shui was indifferent, the woman's eyes were filled with despair. However, just as the woman was about to be pulled out by the fiery-eyed Swanee, a sword light suddenly swept over and cut off the fiery-eyed Swanee's right hand. The woman reacted quickly and immediately went back into the light barrier. At this moment, Taishang Shui also healed the light barrier in time. When the woman saw Zhuoan put away the Tielu sword, her eyes were filled with shock and gratitude. Never did she expect that at the moment when she was in the most despair, it was the demigod cultivator that she thought to possess the weakest strength that saved her. Zhuoan's attack naturally attracted the attention of the others. When they saw that the Tielu sword in Zhuoan's hand was actually a high-quality heavenly divine artifact, they all revealed astonished expressions. However, that was all there was to it. A high-quality heavenly divine artifact was extremely powerful. Cutting off the arm of the fiery-eyed Swanee who was only a mid-heavenly deity could not be considered to be a difficult matter. It was instead a dark cultivator Randolph who took a glance at Zhuoan. Although it was the first time he saw the Tielu sword in Zhuoan's hand, he discovered a trace of familiarity from the way Zhuoan attacked with the sword. After blocking this wave of attacks, the group of people finally arrived at the other side of the Sea of Flames. At this moment, there was no Sea of Flames on the other side. Instead, there were fiery red-colored rocks on the ground. And before them was an enormous rock gate. This rock gate was undecorated and full of bumps and hollows. Evidently, it was formed naturally. At this moment, Han Wang and the others all stopped. Zhuoan was able to see that Han Wang, a dark cultivator Randolph and the others had serious expressions on their faces. In fact, within their serious expressions, there was even a trace of fear. "My name is Jiang Yan. Thank you for saving me earlier." The woman with an ordinary appearance suddenly arrived beside Zhuoan and said in a soft voice. "I just so happened to see you. I couldn't just leave you to die. If it wasn't for the high-quality heavenly divine artifact that I gifted to the pavilion master, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to help you." Chapter 1934. Undercurrent. After passing through this stone door, we'll reach the deepest part of the fiery cloud region. However, there's a true god-level giant beast behind the stone door. Even if we join hands, we can only barely stop it. Han Wang suddenly spoke. He turned around and looked at the 5 cultivators he brought with him. However, this giant beast only has brute force, but its divine soul isn't that strong. The 5 of you are proficient in illusion techniques, so I hope that the 5 of you can help us restrain this giant beast. After Han Wang said that, Jiang Yan and the others' faces turned ugly. They didn't think that Han Wang invited them here to confuse a true god-level giant beast. Such a terrifying existence only needed to wave its claws to kill any one of them. "Lord Han Wang, you didn't say that before. This true god-level giant beast isn't something we can provoke. I want to withdraw now." A man with a crooked nose cupped his hands at King Han with a gloomy gaze, then retreated. Zhuoan knew this man. He was the one Han Wang brought with him. His name was Ji Chao, and his cultivation base wasn't bad. He's a mid-heavenly god. As soon as Ji Chao finished speaking, Jiang Yan and the others also showed signs of retreating. Han Wang's eyes were calm. He didn't care about the retreating Ji Chao. His right hand clawed, and a terrifying energy exploded in the air. Ji Chao groaned and fell to the ground, his body trembling. Since you've come here, do you think you can still leave? You can rest assured, we're not sending you to your deaths. We're giving you a good fortune. Once you help us restrain that giant beast, when we come out, we'll give you a portion of the fire spirit juice. Han Wang continued. The other three people who originally had thoughts of retreating all revealed fervent expressions. The man with the sharp nose stood up and stood to the side with a gloomy expression. He didn't say anything. All right, we're going to open the stone door now. If any of you try to escape while we're dealing with the behemoth, you'll be hunted by the 4-star lords in the future. You'd better think about the severity of the consequences. Han Wang added as he signaled to Xiulan and the others. Then, the 5 of them arrived in front of the stone door. Zhuowen stood there silently. Ever since he came to the other side, Xiang Mengchen, who was originally polite to him, had become a stranger and a little indifferent. After pondering for a moment, Zhuowen transmitted his voice to Xiang Mengchen, Pavilion Master Xiang, can I have a share of the fire essence juice as well? Xiang Mengchen glanced at Zhuowen and replied, if you perform well, I can give you a share. But if you want to run away, you'd better think about the consequences. After all, you're not alone. After that, Xiang Mengchen ignored Zhuowen and opened the gate with King Han and the other Star Lords. Zhuowen was silent, but a trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. Xiang Mengchen dared to threaten him with the people of the Heavenly Armor Planet. This had touched Zhuowen's bottom line. It had to be said that Xiang Mengchen was extremely scheming. Zhuowen couldn't tell that Xiang Mengchen was faking her previous attitude. But now that they were in the fiery cloud territory, she probably felt that Zhuowen couldn't run away, so she didn't bother to smile at him. The good impression he originally had towards Xiang Mengchen in his heart had already vanished into thin air at this moment. Long One, you don't have to worry about Pavilion Master Xiang's attitude. When Taishang Shui invited me, she was very enthusiastic and even promised a lot. Now that we're here, she doesn't even bother to pay attention to me. Her attitude is even colder. Jiang Yen came to Zhuowen's side. He guessed that Zhuowen had transmitted his voice to Xiang Mengchen, so he softly advised. Zhuowen smiled and said, Miss Jiang, don't worry. This Long's words don't carry much weight, so I won't act rashly. It's just that I feel that King Han's words aren't that simple, so it's best to be careful when we meet that giant beast later. Jiang Yen nodded. She also felt that the following things wouldn't be so simple, so she was secretly vigilant. Rumble. With a rumbling sound, the stone gate in front of them slowly opened. Then, a heat wave more terrifying than the one here roared. There were even blazing flames in this heat wave, which looked extremely strange and terrifying. When the heat wave hit them, Jiang Yan's face turned red, and she quickly took out the deep freeze ice jade. Not only Jiang Yan, Ji Chao and the other 3 also took out their deep freeze ice jades, and Zhuowen was no exception. Roar! What followed was a terrifying roar, and then a terrifying giant hand that covered the sky reached out from the stone gate, grabbing at King Han and the other 4 who opened the stone gate. The hand was surrounded by raging flames, and these flames weren't dark red, but golden, looking extremely dazzling. Block it! King Han roared, and took out the scepter in his hand. The light blue light screen was like the sharpest blade, fiercely slamming into the flaming giant hand. Dark Cultivation Lan took out a giant pair of scissors, Huashan took out a long spear that spewed out dark blue flames, Tai Shangxue took out a long sword with snowflakes dancing in the air, and Xiang Mengchen took out the true god tool Green Pearl. With the 5 of them working together, their power wasn't any weaker than the flaming giant hand. With a rumble, the flaming giant hand was blocked by the 5 of them. Rumble. Suddenly, the sound of 4 hooves stomping on the ground came from behind the stone gate, and this sound was getting louder and louder. Then, a giant shadow suddenly broke open the space behind the stone gate, and appeared on the shore of the Sea of Fire. Zhuowen then saw clearly that the flaming giant beast that appeared in front of the stone gate was 1,000 feet tall, with 2 pairs of horns on its head, and its appearance was similar to a water buffalo. With every step it took, the entire ground shook 3 times, and the aura on its body was as terrifying as the ocean. However, this flaming giant beast was bound by chains, and after the beast rushed out of the stone gate, it was immediately forced to stop. Obviously, the chains imprisoned it in place, and it couldn't move forward. Use illusion techniques to confuse it. King Han immediately shouted to the 5 people behind him, and then brought Dark Cultivation Lan, Wuxia, Tai Shangxue, and Xiang Mengchun to retreat. King Han, remember your promise. The hook-nosed man, Ji Chao, coldly snorted, and immediately opened his eyes, immediately using illusion techniques. With Ji Chao taking the lead, Jiang Yan and the other 2 also used their illusion techniques. Zhuowen didn't fall behind, but he only suppressed his divine sense to mid-heavenly god level to release illusion techniques. 5 illusion techniques instantly swept out, and bombarded the flaming giant beast. King Han wasn't wrong, this flaming giant beast's divine sense wasn't very strong, and after the 5 illusion techniques bombarded it, the flaming giant beast immediately fell into a sluggish state. King Han's eyes flashed, and with a kick of his right foot, like a stream of light, he instantly rushed through the gap between the flaming giant beast and the stone gate. Dark Cultivation Lan, Wuxiang, Tai Shangxue, and Xiang Mengchun followed closely behind, all of them taking out their divine tools, and quickly rushed through the gap between the flaming giant beast and the stone gate. The hook-nosed man, Ji Chao, hesitated, gritted his teeth, and decisively gave up on continuing to use illusion techniques, and then with a kick of his right foot, he rushed towards the gap between the flaming giant beast. Ji Chao, Jiang Yan immediately guessed Ji Chao's intention, and couldn't help but shout in shock and anger. The 5 of them joined forces to use illusion techniques, and barely managed to control the flaming giant beast. Once Ji Chao left, it would be difficult for the rest of them to control the flaming giant beast. Sure enough, the moment Ji Chao rushed towards the gap, the flaming giant beast that was originally trapped in illusion roared, and its originally confused eyes gradually became clear. Boom! The flaming giant beast looked at the incoming Ji Chao in confusion, and casually slapped out with its right palm. Ji Chao was scared out of his wits, he didn't expect the flaming giant beast to wake up so quickly, and hurriedly stopped and turned around to escape. Pang! Unfortunately, the difference between Ji Chao and the flaming giant beast was too big, and the flaming giant beast's palm smashed Ji Chao into pieces, and he couldn't be more dead. With Ji Chao's death, the flaming giant beast immediately woke up, and then roared towards the sky, and a strong sound wave spread out, causing Jiang Yan and the other 2 to spit out a mouthful of blood, their faces pale. So. At the same time, the flaming giant beast's right foot stomped, and actually jumped out of the stone gate, rushing towards the shore. What's going on? This flaming giant beast is clearly bound by chains, how can it jump out of the stone gate? Jiang Yan's face was pale, and she couldn't believe it and muttered in a low voice. Poochie. The flaming giant beast's speed was too fast, and in an instant, it was in front of the 4 of them, and with a palm strike, monstrous flames surged out, magnificent and magnificent. It's over. Jiang Yan closed her beautiful eyes, she knew that this flaming giant beast was too terrifying, and she couldn't escape, she was dead for sure. But soon, she found that her waist was hugged by a thick and strong arm, and then suddenly rose into the air. Boom! The flaming giant beast's palm strike came down, and the other 2 were instantly smashed into powder, while Zhuowen carried Jiang Yan, and flew to the other side, his eyes became extremely serious. Long One, Jiang Yan opened her eyes, and immediately saw that the one hugging her was Long One, and her beautiful face blushed, but soon she knew that Long One was saving her. This fiery cloud region is not suitable for you, I'll bring you out of here first. Zhuowen's gaze fell on the flaming giant beast. He was very clear that the chains of the flaming giant beast were most likely broken by one of the 5 who entered, or maybe all 5 of them broke it together, and their goal was to borrow the flaming giant beast's hand to kill them. If the 5 of them died here, when Han Wang and the rest got the flaming spirit juice, there would be no need to give them an extra share. Thinking of this, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with killing intent. Han Wang and the rest were too despicable. The 5 of them had already done a lot to hold back the flaming giant beast, and now they wanted to take their lives. You want to bring me out of here? That sea of fire is too terrifying, you. Jiang Yan couldn't react, but the flaming giant beast had already rushed over again. Zhuowen's right leg kicked, and immediately took out the thunder fire sword, and with his right leg stepped on it. His speed was extremely fast, and in an instant, he shot into the sea of fire. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. In the sea of fire, countless flaming eyes stared at Zhuowen and Jiang Yan like tigers watching their prey. Chapter 1935. Innate talent purgatory. Staring at the fiery eye swan Ni that was instantly killed by the black flames, Jiang Yan's jaw dropped. She was so shocked that she was speechless. Big Brother Long, you want to enter the inner region of the fiery cloud region? Jiang Yan was also an intelligent person. Earlier, Zhuowen only said that he would send her back to the other shore, but didn't mention himself. She could already guess that Zhuowen wanted to enter the inner region of the fiery cloud region. Not only that, from the strength Zhuowen displayed, Jiang Yan naturally wouldn't treat Zhuowen as a demigod. Zhuowen nodded. I came to the fiery cloud region this time because I have something to do. Hence, I have to enter the inner region. Jiang Yan's beautiful eyes flickered. Gritting her teeth, she took out a jade slip and passed it to Zhuowen. Big Brother Zhua, this jade slip records an ancient ruin in the inner region of the fiery cloud region. This ancient ruin contains the inheritance of a supreme void heavenly expert. My daughter is incompetent and is unable to enter the inner region of the fiery cloud region. I can only pass it to Big Brother Zhua. Zhuowen received the jade slip and stared at Jiang Yan in astonishment. He didn't expect that Jiang Yan would have such a jade slip on her. Big Brother Long must be very puzzled. This jade slip isn't obtained by me, but was passed down by my ancestor. Back then, my Jiang clan also had a false true god ancestor. This ancestor would often roam the fiery cloud region. Under a lucky coincidence, he managed to find this jade slip in a market outside the fiery cloud region. As she spoke until here, Jiang Yan's beautiful eyes dimmed. Unfortunately, in order to search for the ancient ruin, my ancestor entered the fiery cloud region alone. In the end, his whereabouts were unknown. This time, I came here because I wanted to rely on Taisheng Shui to enter the fiery cloud region to search for him. However, I didn't expect that Taisheng Shui and the others. Zhuowen kept the jade slip and calmly asked, Miss Jiang, I won't accept this jade slip for nothing. If what's recorded in this jade slip is true, what do you want? Zhuowen was very clear that there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Since Jiang Yan had handed over this jade slip to him, it was definitely not for free. Hearing Zhuowen mention it, Jiang Yan's heart relaxed. She was most afraid that Zhuowen would take the jade slip for himself and not give her any remuneration. Luckily, she had been in contact with Zhuowen during this period of time and knew that Zhuowen wasn't an ungrateful person. Hence, she decided to try her luck and take out the jade slip. If Brother Long can enter the ancient ruins, can you give me the fire spirit juice and God's fire spark? Also, if we can find the remains of my ancestor, I hope we can bring him back. His name is Jiang Su. Jiang Yan asked with uncertainty. Zhuowen pondered for a moment and nodded. All right. At this moment, Zhuowen had already stepped on the thunder fire sword and passed through the sea of fire, landing on the other side of the sea of fire. Miss Jiang, Please leave this place first and wait for me on the meteorite land outside. I will look for you when I come out." After speaking, Zhuowen once again stepped on the thunder fire sword and transformed into a rainbow as he returned. That terrifying flame beast no longer chased after him after reaching the shore. It was as if the sea of fire was a forbidden area for this flame beast, not daring to casually enter. When Zhuowen stepped on the thunder fire sword and returned, the flame beast's eyes flashed with a tyrannical light as it abruptly blasted towards Zhuowen. This flame beast's strength was extremely terrifying. Zhuowen couldn't be bothered to tangle with it. He circulated the entirety of his divine soul and executed the illusory technique from the shapeless world. The flame beast's body froze, while Zhuowen transformed into a rainbow as he instantly entered through the stone door. Behind the stone door, there was an extremely vast passageway. Not only that, this passageway shone with a golden light, extremely bright. A wave of temperature even more terrifying than the temperature outside the stone door gushed in. Zhuowen's speed was extremely fast, and in an instant, he arrived at the end of the passageway. He saw that at the end of the passageway, there was actually a golden star suspended in midair. This star was definitely stronger than any star that Zhuowen had encountered along the way. Zhuowen was very clear that this star was considered powerful even in the fiery cloud region. Moreover, he also discovered that this star's interior was actually tied up with chains. Zhuowen knew that the flame beast should be tied up in this star. This star's terrifying weight caused the flame beast's range of movement to become very small. However, the chains that were derived from the star's interior had already been completely shattered. It should have been destroyed by Han Wang and the other four. Outside the passageway, there was a dark starry sky. There weren't many stars in the starry sky here, and there were even fewer than before. However, Zhuowen discovered that the star's mass and energy here were far more terrifying than the ones outside, and the star that bound the flame beast in front of him was much stronger than the other stars here. Han Wang, and Xiu Lan and the other four had already disappeared. Zhuowen knew that they should have gone to look for the fire god essence juice. Now, Zhuowen wasn't too worried that they would find the fire god essence juice. This was because according to Jiang Yan's jade slip, the fire god essence juice was mainly stored in the ancient ruins. It wouldn't be easy to enter the ancient ruins. At least, Zhuowen didn't think that Han Wang, and Xiu Lan and the other four would be able to enter the depths of the ancient ruins so quickly. Now that Zhuowen's strength was too weak, he planned to advance to the heavenly god realm in this starry sky. Roar! Within the passageway, the flame beast's roar suddenly sounded. Zhuowen knew that the flame beast had awakened from the illusion and was angry out of humiliation. Zhuowen's eyes flashed with a demonic light, and then his body began to expand. In an instant, he transformed from a human body into a huge infant devourer. The infant devourer's body was even more terrifying than the flame beast. Although its aura was weaker than the flame beast, it had the terrifying aura of a superior being. Roar! Devourer roared all of a sudden. As soon as his roar echoed, it reverberated through the entire sky. The stars around him shook hard, and the passageway in front of him exploded. Swoosh! Swoosh! As soon as the flame beast got out of the passageway, it was shaken by Devourer's roar. It could feel the endless prestige and power of that roar. The flaming beast looked at Devourer in fright, retreating continuously. Although its aura was more intimidating than Devourer's innate aura of a superior being was enough to suppress it, leaving it with less than 10% of its power. Devourer roared one more time. The flame beast thudded, kneeling on the ground as it submitted to Devour. Zhuowen looked at the flame beast indifferently. He knew that in front of Devourer's aura, the flame beast couldn't do anything. Devour glided to the most dazzling star. Then, the heaven-devouring eye opened. Terrifying purple-black lightning bolts shot out, covering the star in just a blink of an eye. At this moment, Zhuowen didn't reserve anything. He was using the adult Devourer's energy in the heaven-devouring eye to urge the purple-black lightning bolts. He understood that if he wanted to refine a star, he had to use all of his power. Otherwise, he would fail easily. Zhuowen spent half a day to make the purple-black lightning bolt cover the star completely. Then, Devour swallowed the star. A black vortex appeared in his mouth, and the star was swallowed directly into the void space inside his body. Seeing Devour swallow the star that had trapped it, the flaming beast was more frightened. Then, Zhuowen used the same method, using the purple-black lightning bolts as a medium to wrap the star and swallow it into his body. After devouring the 9 stars, Zhuowen felt his entire body burning. It was as if his internal organs were being set on fire. It was extremely uncomfortable. At this moment, Zhuowen released all of the adult Devour's energy in the heaven-devouring eye to help Devour refine the 9 stars in his body. As he refined the 9 stars, Devour's aura skyrocketed, breaking through the demigod realm and reaching the early heavenly god realm. Not only that, but his aura was still rising, from the early heavenly god realm to the middle heavenly god realm. Eventually, it stopped at the late heavenly god realm. The moment Devour opened his eyes, he faced the sky and roared. The other stars in the starry sky shivered as if they were afraid of Devour. The flame beast knelt on all fours, lowering its head. It didn't dare to look at Devour. Devour's aura was too terrifying. It was even stronger than an ordinary true god realm's aura. Devour's eyes revealed a satisfied look. He knew that the reason why he could advance so quickly was because of the adult Devour's energy. If it weren't for the support of the adult Devour's vast energy, it would be almost impossible for Zhuowen to reach the late heavenly god realm. He was clear that Devour was different from ordinary cultivators. The energy required for each advancement was hundreds or thousands of times more than ordinary cultivators. It could be said that Devour was a terrifying glutton. Worthy of being called one of the strongest races in the starry sky. This Devour is too terrifying. He's just a late heavenly god, but he makes me feel like I've met a true god twice. Calamity. Xiao He sat on the thunder fire sword, looking at Zhuowen in amazement. After successfully advancing to the heavenly god realm, Devour's huge body kept shrinking. Finally, under the effect of the shapeless all-life, he turned into a black-robed young man. This black-robed young man was naturally Zhuowen. Kid, you should have used up all the energy of the adult Devour, right? I'm afraid the road to advancement will be full of thorns. Xiao He said with a frown. Zhuowen nodded and said, I know. My main body is too weak, and I need more strength to take Heavenly Armor Star and the others away. That's why I've cultivated Devour first. However, after this trip to the Long River Galaxy, I'll cultivate my main body again. Moreover, Devour's innate ability is extremely terrifying. After advancing to the heavenly god realm, Devour's innate ability appeared in his inherited memories. Xiao He's eyes flashed with surprise. What kind of innate ability is that? Zhuowen smiled and waved his sleeve. Suddenly, the starry sky within a radius of 10 million miles around him collapsed. Then, countless ferocious-looking refined souls appeared from the collapsed space. Oh! The instant the purgatory behemoth appeared, a look of terror appeared in its eyes as it trembled. The purgatory behemoth's strength was actually being taken away by the purgatory behemoth, while Zhuowen's strength was increasing exponentially. The moment the refined souls appeared, Xiao He felt a chill run down her spine. She could feel the energy in her body gradually draining away. Moreover, this kind of draining couldn't be stopped. Xiao He could only slow it down. Chapter 1936. Ancient Ruins, what a terrifying innate ability. Xiao He's eyes were filled with fear. Based on this terrifying innate ability alone, even an ordinary true god of 2 disasters might not be Zhuowen's match. It's time to take a look at the ancient ruins. Zhuowen smiled faintly and waved at the flame beast at the end of the tunnel. The flame beast whimpered and rushed to Zhuowen's feet, bowing down to show its submission. Whoosh! The moment the flame beast reached Zhuowen's side, a figure suddenly rushed out from the tunnel ahead. It was a tall man with a long blade on his back. He had just rushed out of the tunnel when he saw Zhuowen, and his eyes revealed a hint of ferocity. However, this person quickly noticed the flame beast beside Zhuowen, and his face turned pale, not daring to approach. Zhuowen's eyes were sharp, and he immediately noticed the ferocity in the man's eyes when he saw him. Obviously, this person knew him, but Zhuowen did not. Zhuowen stepped onto the flame beast casually, looked at the tall man, and said, "Who are you?" When Zhuowen stepped onto the flame beast, the tall man's body trembled, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. Then, he slowly retreated. "Retreat!" He shouted and immediately retreated, but he was cursing in his heart. How did Long Wen, a mere demigod, manage to tame a true god-level flame beast? When the tall man immediately retreated, Zhuowen realized that something was wrong. He coldly snorted, pointed at the tall man, and said to the flame beast, "Capture him alive." The flame beast roared and instantly disappeared into the tunnel. After a while, it arrived in front of Zhuowen with the battered man in its mouth. At this moment, the tall man was dying, and his eyes were dazed. This tall man's cultivation was not weak, and he had reached the level of a false true god. If it was before becoming a heavenly god, Zhuowen would have a hard time dealing with this person. But now, he could crush this person to death with one hand. Don't kill me." When the tall man saw Zhuowen in front of him, he exclaimed in horror. "You're right." Zhuowen couldn't be bothered to pay attention to the tall man. His right hand formed a claw and pinched the man's head, immediately searching his soul. After advancing to the late heavenly god realm, Zhuowen's god soul had also evolved to the late heavenly god realm. With Devourer's power, his god soul had far surpassed the late heavenly god realm. Even a false true god might not be as powerful as Zhuowen's god soul. After searching his soul, Zhuowen destroyed the man's spiritual soul. Then, he leaped onto the giant flame beast and said, "Let's go. Let's enter the ancient ruins." This person's name was Pan Hu, and he had come with Han Wang and the others. He had a very high status in the Gold Sun Galaxy and was also invited by Panda to kill him. Now, Panda was simply a jumping clown to him. Originally, Zhuowen didn't want to pay attention to a clown like Panda, but since Panda took the initiative to hit the spearhead, then don't blame Zhuowen for being merciless. Of course, Zhuowen would deal with Panda after they came out of the ancient ruins. The inheritance of a void heaven almighty is just right for this sovereign to inherit. Standing on the giant flame beast, Zhuowen's gaze pierced through the starry sky and landed on the ancient ruins at the end. Whether the ancient ruins were real or not, with Zhuowen's current strength, he didn't fear them at all. The central region of the fiery cloud territory was completely different from the outside. There was a huge ring-shaped region here. There weren't any stars in this region, but the temperature here was much more terrifying than the outside. In the center of this region, there was a huge ancient ruins. There were many dilapidated buildings scattered in this ancient ruins. Moreover, these buildings were all made of fire source crystals. On the surface, it looked as if they had been burned. There really are ancient ruins here. It seems like the information we received wasn't wrong. Some lucky cultivators obtained the fire source essence juice in the outer region. I'm afraid it was leaked from this ancient ruins. After Han Wang and the other four arrived at the central region, their eyes suddenly became blazing. And Xiao Lan seemed to have discovered something. She waved her right hand and pinched a ball of flame that swept out. Then, she spread it out and discovered that the ball of flame was actually a palm-sized liquid. However, this liquid was extremely strange. It was wrapped in flames as if the outer layer of flames had become a bag of fire source essence juice. Fire source essence juice, and Xiao Lan was excited. She immediately put the fire source essence juice into her spirit ring. At the same time, she stared at the people around her with vigilance. And Xiao Lan, you're really useless. The fire source essence juice here isn't just a little bit in your hand. Are we going to ignore the essentials and chase after the trifles and snatch it from you? Wuxia sneered. He also waved his sleeve and collected the ball of flame that passed by not far away. Sure enough, it was also a ball of fire source essence juice. With this discovery, the 5 of them started to collect the fire source essence juice. After about an hour, Han Wang suddenly said, "It's too slow for us to collect it like this. Since this fire source essence juice came from the ancient ruins, we might be able to find the source if we work together." I agree with Han Wang. Xiang Mengchun nodded. Since Han Wang took the lead, and Xiu Lan, Taishang Shui, and the others naturally had no objections. The ancient ruins were very big. After the 5 of them landed on a fiery path in the ancient ruins, they started to search. Soon, the 5 of them arrived at a spacious area. They saw a huge flame palace in front of them. However, this flame palace was now extremely dilapidated and on the verge of collapse. What a grand palace! Even a true god might not be able to build such a magnificent palace. And Xiu Lan sighed. However, Xiang Mengchun said, this might be the ancient ruins of a void sky expert. It might contain the inheritance of a void sky expert. The inheritance of a void sky expert, and Xiu Lan, Wuxia, and Taishang Shui's eyes burned with passion. On the other hand, Han Wang frowned slightly. No one knew what he was thinking. Look, isn't that the pool of fire source essence juice? And Xiu Lan suddenly pointed to the side. The other 4 looked over. Indeed, there was a fiery red pool not far from the dilapidated palace. The pool was burning with a fiery red flame that was surging violently. It looked like a wave that was constantly surging. It really is fire source essence juice. Let's go take a look. Han Wang's eyes lit up and he immediately rushed toward the pool. The other 4 were not to be outdone. There is a restriction around this pool of fire source essence juice. This restriction is very powerful. We can't break it with our strength. After checking the pool, Han Wang's face darkened. The others had similar expressions. Whoosh! Suddenly, a bubble appeared in the fiery red pool. Then, flames wrapped around a bit of fire source essence juice and rushed out of the ancient ruins. Han Wang intercepted the fire source essence juice and sighed. It seems that the fire source essence juice outside is leaking from this pool. And Xiu Lan and the others were helpless. They knew that although there were many pools of fire source essence juice, the restriction was too powerful. They could see it but could not touch it. Everyone, this restriction must have been set up by the ancient ruins owner. Since that's the case, why don't we enter the palace and take a look? Perhaps the palace has a way to break the restriction. Xiang Mengchun suddenly smiled sweetly. Pavilion Master Xiang is right. Let's enter the palace and take a look. Wuxia quickly replied. And Xiu Lan and Taishang Shui did not have much opinion. Instead, it was Han Wang who frowned. He did not know why, but after entering the ancient ruins, he felt uneasy. Han Wang, is there a problem? And Xiu Lan noticed Han Wang's expression and asked. Han Wang shook his head. I just feel uneasy. Maybe it's just my mind playing tricks on me. There's only this palace left. Let's go in and take a look. The group of 5 slowly entered the palace. However, the moment they entered the palace, Xiang Mengchun's mouth revealed a strange arc rumble. A stream of light instantly entered the ancient ruins. Zhuowen stood on the fire beast. His gaze fell on the dilapidated buildings in front of him. He asked curiously, this is the ancient ruins that Jiang Yan mentioned? The moment they entered the ancient ruins, Zhuowen had some doubts. Logically speaking, since the fiery cloud domain existed in the Long River system, and Qi was the master of the system, it was impossible for him to not notice the ancient ruins in the depths of the fiery cloud domain. With the strength of Chi-Chi's real body, entering this place should not be too big of a problem. Moreover, taking away the inheritance of the ancient ruins should not be too difficult. However, the fiery cloud domain had existed in the long river system for such a long time. However, Chi-Chi did not do so. This made Zhuowen feel that it was strange. Seems like this place is not simple. Zhuowen looked around the ancient ruins. However, he was secretly vigilant. He guessed that with Chi-Chi's power, he definitely knew that there was an ancient ruins here. Since the ancient ruins still existed in the core region of the fiery cloud domain, there was only one explanation. That was that the ancient ruins were not that easy to take. Even a true god like Chi-Chi would find it difficult to take down the ancient ruins. Roar! Suddenly, the fiery beast roared at Zhuowen. There was fear in its eyes and it used its right claw to point at the palace in front of it. Its body was shivering as though it was afraid of the palace. Zhuowen walked down from the fiery beast and walked towards the palace slowly. At the same time, he took out the thunder fire sword and held the iron Lu sword in his right hand. He was observing the surroundings at all times. Young man, this place is obviously very hot. However, it gives me a feeling that it is a bit gloomy. Xiao He floated on the thunder fire sword and said with fear in its small eyes. Zhuowen nodded. Very soon, he noticed the pool of fire spirit juice that was not far away. This is fire spirit juice. There is so much of it. Zhuowen stared at the pool in front of him that was a few feet wide. There was quite a lot of fire spirit juice in it. If such a large amount of fire spirit juice were to be released, it would definitely cause countless heaven gods in the entire system to go crazy. Even the cultivators in the surrounding systems would not be calm. There is a prohibition. Zhuowen quickly noticed that there was a transparent light flowing around the pool. It was obvious that there was a strong prohibition around the pool. Chapter 1937. Offering. Zhuowen nodded. Although the restriction was strong, it had been eroded by the passage of time and was already broken. Perhaps it was still very strong for those below the true god realm, but it wasn't too strong for the true gods who were rather strong. When he thought of this, Zhuowen suddenly slashed out with the iron Lu sword in his right hand and executed the destruction sword art's fourth move, Dark Moon Times. A crescent moon slowly rose from the sword light. At the same time, Zhuowen even used the fourth level Dao Insight's energy on Dark Moon Times, causing the crescent moon to become even more fierce and terrifying. Xiao He controlled the thunder fire sword and countless black flames revolved around it. These black flames were densely packed and completely enveloped the thunder fire sword, turning into a terrifying black beast. It struck out with its claws, smashing heavily on the restriction. Rumble. The restriction around the fire spirit juice pool trembled violently. Then, with a cracking sound, the entire restriction collapsed and shattered. Splash. Xiao He was like a hungry wolf as she suddenly pounced into the pool. Then, she leisurely swam in various postures in the fire spirit juice pool. Of course, all of this was an illusion. Zhuowen clearly felt that the thunder fire sword controlled by Xiao He was rapidly absorbing the fire spirit juice in the pool. How cunning! Zhuowen curled his lips and immediately took out empty barrels from his spirit ring. Then, he poured the fire spirit juice into these huge empty barrels. However, the fire spirit juice was extremely deep. After filling more than 10 barrels, Zhuowen realized that the pool didn't decrease at all. Dig up the entire pool. Zhuowen's eyes revealed a burning gaze. Xiao He also understood tacitly. The thunder fire sword suddenly spewed out terrifying black flames and transformed into a huge sword that was 100 feet long in the air. The sword suddenly stabbed into the edge of the pool and then drew a circle around the pool. Then, with a light drag, it directly dug out the pool where the fire spirit juice was. Zhuowen waved his right hand and a black whirlpool appeared beside him. He then swallowed the fire spirit juice pool into the space in his body. The fire spirit juice's effect is great. With so much fire spirit juice, I think it's enough to repair the thunder fire sword to a true god weapon, Xiao He said happily. Zhuo Wen was also in a good mood. With so much fire spirit energy juice, Zhuo Wen felt that it would be enough for him to reach the true god stage in the future. When he reached the peak of the heavenly god stage, he would be able to start absorbing the fire spirit energy juice. Swoosh! Suddenly, at the entrance of the broken palace entrance in front of the broken palace. Splash! However, the figure that the shadow the devil is King Wang. Ding! Zhuowen arrived in front of Han Wang. His pupils constricted as he discovered that Han Wang's face had already turned dark green. It was obvious that he had been poisoned. Han Wang's breathing quickened. He also saw Zhuowen walking over. He cried out loudly and suddenly spat out a mouthful of black blood. He said sinisterly, "Hurry up, leave this place." Just as he finished speaking, Han Wang breathed his last. Zhuowen frowned, his gaze landing on the palace in front of him. Since King Han had fallen because of this, he was afraid that in Xiulan, Tai Shangxue, Wuxiang and Xiang Mengchun were all doomed. It seems like this might really be the remains of an almighty void heaven expert. Let's go in and take a look. Zhuowen instructed the giant flame beast to stay outside and then stepped into the palace with the thunder fire sword. With Zhuowen's current abilities, unless it was a top-notch real god, it would be impossible to kill Zhuowen. Zhuowen didn't believe that a mere remnant of a fallen void sky almighty could do anything to him. After walking into the gloomy palace, Zhuowen quickly arrived at a dark hall. There were 6 side doors and the main door in front of him. At this moment, the side doors were not open, but the main door in front of him was opened by a crack. Zhuowen knew that the main door should have been opened by Han Wang and the others. Zhuowen did not directly enter the main door. Instead, he casually went to the side door closest to him and violently blasted it open. Whoosh! The side door shattered, and a sharp sound of something breaking through the air rushed in. Then, it rushed towards Zhuowen's vital points. This was a fierce black arrow rain, and it almost covered Zhuowen's vital points. Zhuowen's pupils constricted. He took a few steps back. At the same time, Xiao He controlled the thunder fire sword to slash fiercely, instantly destroying the black arrow rain. This arrow rain is not simple. If an ordinary peak heaven god is not careful, he will probably die in this arrow rain, Xiao He said in a low voice. Zhuowen nodded. His gaze fell on the back of the door, and he gloomily discovered that there was nothing behind the door. Zhuowen held the Iron Lu sword and became even more alert. He began to blast open the other 5 side doors one by one. However, the other side doors were the same as the first one. The moment he blasted open, there were similar mechanisms, but there was nothing behind them. When Zhuowen blasted open the last side door, the Iron Lu sword in his hand was already brandishing a sword flower. When he was ready to defend himself at any time, he discovered that there was no mechanism behind this side door. This is a herb garden. He saw that behind this last side door was a herb garden with all kinds of divine herbs. After entering this place, Zhuowen discovered that this herb garden was not small. The lowest grade of divine herbs here was level 3, and the highest grade was even level 7. However, what disappointed Zhuowen was that the level 6 and 7 divine herbs were all withered and dead. Zhuowen was very clear that the higher the grade of the divine herb, the higher the requirement for the soil and environment. Before this herb garden was abandoned, it should be an extremely high-grade herb garden. However, with the passage of time and the destruction of the ruins, this herb garden was abandoned. Level 6 and 7 divine herbs were extremely precious. In such a harsh environment, it was impossible for them to survive. However, there were some level 5 divine herbs that survived, but the amount was very small. The ones that survived the most were level 3 and level 4 divine herbs. For example, 100-mile bamboo, green jade wormwood, wind willow rabbit run, 3 soft water immortal leaves, chi shuegan, hidden gall fire spring flower, jijia green and so on. Zhuowen even saw the god fire flower that Jiang Yen needed in this herb garden. Moreover, there were quite a few of them. The god fire flower was a level 4 divine herb. Its entire body was like fire. From afar, it looked like a cluster of intense flames. With a wave of his hand, Zhuowen kept all the divine herbs in the herb garden into his spirit ring. Of course, those withered level 6 and 7 divine herbs were not spared by Zhuowen. Although they were withered, they were still level 6 and 7 divine herbs. Who knows, they might be useful in the future. After keeping the divine herbs, Zhuowen came to the front of the main door. His eyes flickered, but he still pushed the door open. Since even King Han had fallen, the place behind the main door was definitely not a good place. Creak. The strange sound of the stone door rolling could be heard. In this quiet hall, it was especially eerie. Behind the main door was a huge hall. This hall was surrounded by stone pillars. Moreover, it was filled with a dim fog, making it impossible to see the true appearance of this hall. However, there was a red carpet in front of the main door. Only this red carpet path did not exist in the fog. Following the red carpet, Zhuowen landed at the end. There was a half-meter tall temple. This temple was extremely exquisite, but there was indeed nothing inside. It faintly revealed a trace of strangeness. Suddenly, footsteps came from the side. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed as he saw a beautiful figure appear in his field of vision. Little brother Longwen. Why are you here? When the beautiful figure saw Zhuowen, she suddenly exclaimed in surprise. This beautiful figure was none other than the pavilion master of Douya Pavilion, Xiang Mengchen. Pavilion master Xiang, Zhuowen subconsciously frowned. He felt that this Xiang Mengchen was a little strange. Logically speaking, King Han had fallen here. How could this Xiang Mengchen be safe and sound? Just as Zhuowen was about to ask, Xiang Mengchen sighed softly and said, "You shouldn't have come here. This palace is too strange. Other than me, Huashang, Tai Shangxue, and Anshuran are all dead. Only King Han desperately escaped from the palace." Zhuowen was startled. He looked Xiang Mengchen up and down and suddenly pulled out the iron Lu sword and slashed at Xiang Mengchen. Bang! Xiang Mengchuan's face changed slightly. She immediately took out the green bead and said angrily, "Little brother Longwen, what is the meaning of this? Are you crazy?" Zhuowen's mouth was full of a sneer. He completely ignored Xiang Mengchen and took a step forward. He immediately used the 3 major sword moves, sword-piercing brambles, first appearance of sword light, and midday Sunday bang bang bang. Suddenly, Xiang Mengchuan's green bead trembled violently, and Xiang Mengchen retreated. She was shocked that Zhuowen's strength had become so terrifying. "You were the one who told the 4-star lords about this ruin, and you were the one who broke the chain of the flame beast, right? Pavilion Lord Xiang, who are you?" Zhuowen swung the iron Lu sword in his right hand and used the 4th move of the Tao of Destruction sword art, sometimes the Dark Moon. A crescent moon rose, attached to the sword light, and slashed in front of Xiang Mengchen. Crack! Suddenly, the light shield in front of Xiang Mengchen shattered, and the green bead was sent flying. However, the green bead that was sent flying immediately flew back. In an instant, the green aura around Xiang Mengchuan's body expanded, forming an extremely powerful defense. "How did you know?" Xiang Mengchuan's eyes suddenly became strange, and she sneered. Zhuowen's mouth was full of a sneer. "Of course I didn't know. I was just testing you. I didn't expect you to really answer me." Xiang Mengchuan's face froze, and her eyes spat fire. This Zhuowen dared to trick her. How hateful. "Then tell me your goal." Zhuowen said coldly. Xiang Mengchun didn't speak anymore. She slowly retreated and landed in front of the temple at the end of the red carpet, saying, "Goal. I just need a sacrifice. I don't have a clear goal. Since you've come to this temple, don't think about leaving." Creak. Chapter 1938. Illusory sky bridged. The grey fog churned and instantly turned into a sea of fire. Zhuowen could even feel the scorching heat from the sea of fire. The sea of fire was very terrifying. It instantly lit Zhuowen up, and Zhuowen was like a man on fire. However, Zhuowen sneered. After cultivating the shapeless all-life, Zhuowen could tell with a glance that this sea of fire was simply an illusion. Moreover, it was not a simple illusion. Once you fell into the illusion due to fear, the illusion would become real and burn you to death. As Zhuowen could see through the illusion with a glance, he was completely unaffected by the flames that enveloped him. The sea of fire suddenly retreated, and what followed was an extreme world of ice and snow. Zhuowen was frozen into an iceman. Then came hidden weapons, war, slaughter, tsunamis. All the disasters in the world were inflicted on Zhuowen at this moment. However, Zhuowen was completely unaffected. He just walked along the red carpet and walked towards the temple. Xiang Mengchuan's face sank. She did not expect Zhuowen to be so resistant to illusions. When Zhuowen arrived in front of the temple, Xiang Mengchun hurriedly took a few steps back. Her face was filled with fear as she said, "Don't come over." Zhuowen glanced at Xiang Mengchun, then pointed at the temple that was half the height of a person and asked, "What is this?" Xiang Mengchuan's beautiful eyes were filled with fear, especially when Zhuowen asked about the temple. Her fear was filled with panic, as if something precious on her was being peeped at by Zhuowen. Seeing Xiang Mengchuan's expression, Zhuowen immediately knew that this temple was not simple. It was possible that this temple had something to do with the inheritance of the master of the ruins here. Zhuowen gently placed his right hand on the temple. Immediately, an extremely strange and cold aura surged out from the temple. Then, a grey line quickly followed Zhuowen's right hand and rapidly entered between Zhuowen's eyebrows. It was so fast that Zhuowen did not expect it to be so fast. The moment the grey line entered between Zhuowen's eyebrows, Zhuowen froze on the spot. I really fell for it. This temple contains a trace of the master of the ruins' remnant consciousness. Any cultivator who comes into contact with this temple will have their soul invaded by the remnant consciousness. Moreover, their soul will be devoured and become nutrients for the remnant consciousness. This kid is dead for sure. However, this lad was only a demigod before. Now, he's already a late heavenly god. His battle prowess is too terrifying. Even my low-grade true god weapon couldn't withstand his attacks. This is really strange. I'm afraid this lad has a huge secret. Zhuowen. Is Zhuowen's. Is Zhuowen Xiang. Just as Xiang Mengchun was about to take away Zhuowen's spirit ring, the thunder fire sword floating beside Zhuowen suddenly slashed out and cut off Xiang Mengchuan's right hand. The green bead fell to the side. At the same time, the thunder fire sword erupted with terrifying black flames that instantly enveloped Xiang Mengchun. Xiang Mengchun did not even have time to react. Not only was her right hand cut off, but she also lost her life. Stinking woman, do you think this dragon lord is a useless person? If you want to touch Zhuowen, you have to ask your grandpa dragon first. Xiao He sat on the sword hilt. Then, she waved her little paw and called the green bead over. She then looked at Zhuowen worriedly. The grey line that flew out of the temple was too fast. Even Xiao He did not have time to react before Zhuowen was hit. Although it's just a wisp of remnant consciousness, it's still the remnant consciousness of a void sky almighty. I don't know if this brat can withstand it, Xiao He whispered worriedly. At this moment, a gray figure rushed out of Zhuowen's spirit space and arrived in the spirit space in an instant. It was a gray-robed middle-aged man. His gloomy eyes coldly scanned the spirit space, but soon, he revealed a surprised expression. Zhuowen's spirit space was really too strange. It was actually a starry sky with countless twinkling stars. Roar! Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar resounded. In the starry sky, a giant beast with 12 long horns stepped through the starry sky and arrived in front of the gray-robed middle-aged man in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! As the giant beast rushed over, a huge purple-black lightning bolt flashed out and instantly charged towards the gray-robed middle-aged man. Isn't this Devour? How is this possible? The gray-robed middle-aged man was extremely shocked. He immediately raised his hands, and gray energy gushed out in an attempt to block the black lightning bolt. Bang! The purple-black lightning bolt was extremely terrifying. As soon as the gray-robed middle-aged man collided with it, he was immediately sent flying. You're just a remnant consciousness, yet you want to nibble away at me. You're simply courting death. Zhuowen, who had transformed into Devour, sneered. He stomped his right foot and opened his mouth. A terrifying devouring power that seemed to be able to swallow the world gushed out. A terrifying black vortex appeared in Devour's mouth. Then, the gray-robed middle-aged man involuntarily flew towards Devour, his eyes filled with fear. He originally thought that Zhuowen was just an ordinary late heavenly god, so he didn't hesitate to use his remnant consciousness to devour his soul. However, he didn't expect that this brat was so extraordinary and had such a big secret. It should be known that in Xilan, Exalted Snow, and Huashang's souls were easily devoured by Devour after touching the temple. As for Han Wang, he was smarter and let go in time. However, he was still poisoned to death. Only Zhuowen wasn't a cultivator, but Devour, one of the most powerful races in the starry sky. With Devour's enormous soul, how could his remnant consciousness devour it? Moreover, Devour's ability was devouring. Entering Devour's soul space as a remnant consciousness was simply courting death. Wait, Your Excellency, and I will mind our own business. Let me go, and I won't cause any trouble for Your Excellency in the future. I will even leave my inheritance to you, the gray-robed man immediately shouted. Zhuowen was too lazy to pay attention to this person. As long as he devoured this person's soul, he would be able to obtain his memories. At that time, the inheritance would still be his. Why should he listen to this person's suggestion and let him go? Moreover, this person was treacherous and cunning. It was obvious that he had worked together with Xiang Mengchun to bring people here. Their purpose was to let this remnant consciousness absorb the soul and recover. Zhuowen didn't want to have any cooperation with this person, or he would definitely be stabbed in the back. After devouring the gray-robed man's soul, Zhuowen woke up. Brat, you're finally awake. Seeing Zhuowen wake up, Xiao He threw the green bead she obtained from Xiang Mengchun to Zhuowen. After receiving the green bead, Zhuowen didn't need to think to know that it should be Xiang Mengchun's low-grade true god weapon. The defensive power of this item was quite strong, but for him, it wasn't very useful. He intended to give this green bead to Moyan Wuxiang. After all, Moyan Wuxiang's strength was too weak. With this bead, it would be difficult for anyone below the true god realm to threaten her. Xiao He, thank you. Although Zhuowen was caught in the soul battle, he also knew that Xiang Mengchun would definitely attack him. Now that the green bead was in Xiao He's hands and Xiang Mengchun wasn't there, it was obvious that she had been killed by Xiao He. However, Xiao He waved her hand and asked curiously, "It seems that your soul is really strong." Although it was only a trace of consciousness, it was still an elite in the virtual sky world when it was alive, right? You actually killed it so quickly. Zhuowen shook his head and said, this person's soul was too damaged. Moreover, this person was also the lowest existence in the virtual sky world. It's pardonable that she was killed by me. Now, let's enter this person's inner hull first. I'm prepared to let my original body accept this person's inheritance. Xiao He nodded and then entered the deepest part of the hall with her sword. In the deepest part of the hall, there was a secret door that ordinary people couldn't detect. The space inside the secret door was a void space. In this space, the only thing that existed was a huge, fiery red arch bridge. This arch bridge had a total of 9 steps, but now, only the first step of the arch bridge was lit up. The other 8 steps were dim. This is the virtual sky bridge. Zhuowen stared at the virtual sky bridge in the void space, his eyes flickering. The owner of the soul he devoured was called Liang Shui. He wasn't a cultivator from the Wuxia heaven region, but a cultivator from the Dafan heaven region, which was very far away from the Wuxia heaven region. Moreover, this Liang Shui offended an elite in the virtual sky world who was stronger than him and was hunted down and seriously injured. In the end, he escaped to the Changhe galaxy, which was at the border of the Wuxia heaven region. The fiery cloud region was also created because of Liang Shui's will. Qi, the ruler of the Changhe galaxy, naturally knew the reason why the fiery cloud region was formed. However, Qi was fooled by Liang Shui's threat. After learning that the other party was an elite in the virtual sky world, he didn't dare to approach the fiery cloud region at all for fear that he would be killed with a slap. After obtaining Liang Shui's memories, Zhuowen had a much clearer understanding of the virtual sky world. The most important thing for virtual sky world cultivators was the virtual sky bridge floating in the void space in front of them. The virtual sky bridge contained all the energy that an elite in the virtual sky world cultivated for countless years. It was something even more important than the soul. The virtual sky bridge had a total of 9 steps, and each step corresponded to a realm on the virtual sky bridge. It was called the Virtual Sky 9 Steps by virtual sky world cultivators. It was said that the first step on the virtual sky bridge allowed one to live for 10,000 years. The second step allowed one to have an immortal body. The third step allowed one to pierce through the starry sky. The 9th step allowed one to comprehend life and death. Liang Shui's virtual sky bridge only had 1 step lit up. Obviously, his realm had only reached the longevity realm. Back then, Liang Shui was seriously injured and even his soul was badly damaged. However, he still managed to preserve the virtual sky bridge in his body so that when his soul was complete one day, he could rebuild his physical body and ascend to the virtual sky bridge again. Unfortunately, all of this had become a wedding dress for Zhuowen. Kid, why don't you use Devour's physical body to absorb the energy of the virtual sky bridge? With Devour's physical body, I'm afraid that once it advances, it will be much stronger than your original body, right? Xiao He asked doubtfully. Zhuowen sighed softly. It's not that easy for Devour to advance. Devour must absorb a specific type of energy or the star force of a planet to continuously advance. The energy of a cultivator's virtual sky bridge isn't suitable for Devour. Chapter 1939. Come out. Xiao He nodded as if she understood, but she didn't say anything else. Zhuowen, on the other hand, sighed softly. In fact, he was a little puzzled. In Devour's inherited memories, Devour was extremely powerful, and his innate talent was terrifying. However, because he was too powerful and terrifying, it was much more difficult for Devour to advance compared to other cultivators. Generally, the time needed for an infant Devour to become an adult Devour was often calculated in billions of years, which was an extremely terrifying number. If Devour didn't have any fortuitous encounters, it would be very difficult for him to reach adulthood. Because Zhuowen knew this, he didn't plan to put his focus on Devour, but on his main body. First, he would let his main body's cultivation increase. When the time came, it would be much easier to find suitable energy or planets for Devour to absorb. Fortunately, Zhuowen's divine soul was extremely powerful, so he could multitask. Moreover, Zhuowen was a human, so he was more inclined to let his main body's cultivation increase. Previously, if his main body wasn't too weak and he urgently needed more strength, he wouldn't have spent so much time on Devour. However, he had to do so. After all, the heavenly Devourer had the power of an adult Devourer. Once the infant Devourer became a heavenly god, not only would he have the innate divine ability, but he would also be able to absorb the adult Devourer's power and advance rapidly, giving Zhuowen the strength of a true god. It was precisely because of his current strength that Zhuowen was able to enter the Long River system without fear. He was also more confident in taking away the heavenly armor planet. First, absorb this illusory heavenly bridge into Devourer's body. Then, let my main body cultivate on it. After saying that, Zhuowen's body enlarged, revealing Devourer's main body. Devourer opened his mouth, and a black vortex appeared. Then, the illusory heavenly bridge was swallowed into Devourer's body without any surprise. At this moment, Zhuowen's main body, clad in white, slowly stepped out from Devourer's body and stepped onto Liang Shui's illusory heavenly bridge. Then, he sat cross-legged on the first step of the illusory heavenly bridge and began to absorb the energy within it to cultivate. It's a pity that Liang Shui's Void Sky grade weapon was destroyed during the chase. Otherwise, I would also be able to obtain a Void Sky grade weapon. In Liang Shui's memories, Liang Shui originally possessed a Void Sky grade weapon. Unfortunately, it was destroyed by the Great Master who chased after him. Thinking of this, Zhuowen couldn't help but sigh. It's time for us to leave this place. After leaving the secret door, Zhuowen searched the entire palace again. He found the corpses of Huishang, Tai Shui, and An Xiulan. In addition to these three, there were many corpses in the hall that had already turned into skeletons. Obviously, these corpses were the same as Huishang and the others, pitiful creatures whose souls had been devoured by Liang Shui's remnant consciousness. Suddenly, Zhuowen noticed a skeleton kneeling on one knee. There was a jade pendant on the skeleton's waist. The word Jiang was engraved on the jade pendant. Wasn't that Jiang Yan's ancestor, Jiang Su? With a wave of his sleeve, Zhuowen put away Jiang Su's corpse and checked the surroundings. After making sure that there was nothing left, Zhuowen left the palace. By the time Zhuowen walked out of the palace, the flame beast was still waiting outside. Seeing Zhuowen come out, the flame beast prostrated itself on the ground, its eyes filled with awe. Leave this fiery cloud territory. Zhuowen sat on the flame beast's back and ordered indifferently. The flame beast roared and stomped its right foot, leaving this place in an instant. However, when the gigantic flame beast returned to the sea of fire, it hesitated. The reason why it was trapped here was because of Liang Shui. Before Liang Shui had fallen, he had trapped the flame beast here, making it the flame beast's guardian. He had also ordered it not to leave the sea of flames. Now, the flame beast had a deep memory of that. Facing the sea of flames in front of it, it hesitated. Liang Shui is already dead. His orders are nothing but a fart. Just take me away, Zhuowen said indifferently. The flame beast shivered, then rushed into the sea of flames without hesitation. Even Liang Shui had died in this man's hands. The flame beast knew that this man was not to be trifled with, so it didn't dare to disobey Zhuowen's order. Especially when it had felt the terrifying pressure from Devour, the flame beast was even more frightened. Although there were still many fiery-eyed Swanni in the sea of flames, they didn't dare to come out when the flame beast appeared. They all shrank back into the sea of flames. Looking at the countless stars along the way, Zhuowen sighed inwardly. The energy of the stars was too strong. He had to use Devour's power to refine 9 stars. With his current strength, it was too difficult to devour more stars. As for the life planets, Zhuowen didn't dare to act recklessly. This was the heaven domain of China. Once he devoured a planet, his true identity would be recognized. Therefore, he had to be careful on his path of advancement. Outside the fiery cloud domain, there were still several meteorite continents floating. Not far from the passage Zhuowen had entered, Jiang Yan sat cross-legged on a bluestone. Her beautiful eyes were looking at the entrance of the passage with worry. Although she wasn't sure what the ancient ruins in the fiery cloud domain were like, she was clear that her ancestor had disappeared. She was afraid that Long One wouldn't be able to come out. Let's wait for another month. If Brother Long still hasn't come out, I'll leave. Jiang Yan shook her head, sighing inwardly. Rumble. Suddenly, a terrifying rumbling sound came from the entire fiery cloud domain. Soon after, the cultivators in the fiery cloud domain were shocked. They found that the flames in the fiery cloud domain were even fiercer. The stars in the fiery cloud domain were even more violent, as if something had detonated them. What's going on? What's happening in the fiery cloud domain? Many cultivators who had planned to enter the fiery cloud domain all returned to the meteorite continents through the passage. They looked at the scene with fear. They couldn't imagine what was happening in the fiery cloud domain. Rumble. Suddenly, many passages outside the fiery cloud domain collapsed. Some of the cultivators who were still in the passages, because they couldn't escape in time, were directly annihilated. This scene caused many cultivators to suck in a breath of cold air, their hearts thumping wildly. Even Jiang Yan stood up and quickly retreated to the edge of the meteorite continents. Jiang Yan's beautiful eyes were filled with fear as she looked at the broken passages. Her heart thumped. She knew that with the passage destroyed, the cultivators in the fiery cloud domain would have a hard time coming out. And Zhuowen, who was in the depths of the fiery cloud domain, most likely had met with misfortune. Thinking of this, Jiang Yan's heart was full of sighs. She knew that there was no need for her to wait any longer. Brother Long, it's my fault. After saying that, Jiang Yan was about to leave. Look, what is that? What a terrifying giant beast, it's actually not afraid of the terrifying flames in the fiery cloud domain. Suddenly, the cultivators on the meteorite continents exclaimed, attracting Jiang Yan's attention. Jiang Yan looked up and saw the giant beast that everyone was talking about. Her body trembled. Flame giant beast. How did it come out? Jiang Yan cried out in shock. But soon she noticed that within the flame giant beast, there seemed to be a figure standing there. And this figure was not unfamiliar to her. Brother Long, Jiang Yan's heart trembled. She didn't expect Long Wen to be able to tame such a terrifying flame giant beast. The flame giant beast instantly landed on the meteorite continents. In an instant, the cultivators on the meteorite continents all retreated. Their eyes were filled with fear as they stared at Zhuowen, who was on top of the flame giant beast. Everyone was guessing which supreme existence this person was, to actually be able to tame such a terrifying flame giant beast. Zhuowen beckoned to Jiang Yan, Miss Jiang, I'm fortunate to have completed my mission. Jiang Yan gasped, but she didn't dare to get close to the flame giant beast. She was very clear how terrifying this flame giant beast was. This was an existence comparable to a true god. With just a pinch of its finger, she would be squashed to death. Zhuowen walked down from the flame giant beast and took out the interspatial pouch that he had prepared beforehand. He passed it to Jiang Yan and transmitted his voice, Miss Jiang, there's the divine flame that you want in this interspatial pouch, as well as a barrel of fire spirit juice. At the same time, Zhuowen took out a jade pendant and passed it to Jiang Yan, I found this in one of the corpses. Does this belong to your ancestor Jiangsu? Jiang Yan inspected the divine flame and fire spirit juice in the interspatial pouch. She was instantly stunned. There were a total of 10 divine flames and a barrel of fire spirit juice. This barrel wasn't simple at all. It was as thick as a person hugging it and half a meter tall. It was filled to the brim with fire spirit juice. Without a doubt, this was the most amount of fire spirit juice Jiang Yan had ever seen. But very quickly, Jiang Yan's attention was attracted by the jade pendant. She took it and inspected it seriously. With an agitated expression, she said, this jade pendant really belongs to my ancestor Jiangsu. My ancestor is dead. Zhuowen nodded. He passed Jiang Su's corpse to Jiang Yan. This jade pendant was found in this corpse. This person should be your ancestor Jiang Su. Jiang Yan received the corpse. Her eyes instantly reddened as she sighed, although I knew that my ancestor might have fallen, but after receiving confirmation, I still feel sad. Let's leave this place first. Everyone here saw me pass the interspatial pouch to you. I'm afraid there will be people coveting your treasures. Zhuowen waved his hand at the giant flame beast. The giant flame beast roared and came to Zhuowen's side. Soon after, it lowered its body and appeared extremely docile. Jiang Yan's body trembled. Suppressing the fear in his heart, he stepped onto the flame beast. Zhuowen was right. With Zhuowen's attitude, as long as one wasn't an idiot, they would be able to guess that the treasures Zhuowen obtained must be extraordinary. And Zhuowen gave the interspatial pouch to Jiang Yan. It was impossible for others not to covet it. Others might not dare to touch Zhuowen, but that didn't mean they wouldn't dare to touch her, Jiang Yan. The two of them rode on the flame beast and soon disappeared from the meteorite continent. Outside a dark green planet, a huge flaming beast was quietly passing by. Brother Long, this is my planet. On the flame beast, Jiang Yan pointed at the dark green planet and said in a relaxed manner. Zhuowen nodded and said, Miss Jiang, let's part ways here. I still have some matters to deal with. Jiang Yan's beautiful eyes widened. Somewhat downcast, she said, Brother Long, can't you come to my house for a visit? Is it urgent? It is indeed urgent. If there is a chance in the future, I will definitely pay you a visit. Zhuowen said. Jiang Yan sighed and smiled, Thank you Brother Long. In the future, you must come here and let me be the host. If fate allows, I will come. After saying that, Zhuowen rode on the flame beast and left. Chapter 1940. Pan Tian had fallen. That day, Long River Star main city was bustling with noise and excitement. On the streets, there were 2 rows of guards in heavy armor. The guards were lined up on both sides of the street. Their waists were straight like pine trees. Both sides of the street were filled with cultivators. Everyone was in a heated discussion and some of them even looked excited. I heard that the real gods of the 5 galaxies nearby are planning to leave Long River Galaxy today. The ruler of Long River Galaxy, Mr. Chi Chi, will personally send off the 5 real gods. I never expected 5 real gods to leave Long River Galaxy at the same time. In other words, we will see 6 real gods today. This is so exciting. It's my first time seeing so many real gods. Yes, yes. Once I become a real god, I will have the right to rule the galaxy. I wonder when I will be able to become a real god. It's not easy to become a real god. There are so many heaven gods in a galaxy but only one can become a real god. Our galaxy is not like a star area. Real gods are very rare. However, the discussion died down very quickly. Everyone's gaze was attracted by a huge beast at the end of the street. The beast was 1,000 feet tall and 10 feet wide. It took up almost 90% of the street. On the back of the beast, there was a luxurious sedan. There were more than 10 figures standing on the sedan. Among them, there were 6 figures who had grand auras. Looking at the 6 figures, many cultivators on the street were excited. The 6 figures were the 6 real gods that they had discussed enthusiastically previously. They were real god Chi Chi from the Long River Galaxy, real god Pan Tian from the Golden Sun Galaxy, real god Xiao Run from the Black Light Galaxy, real god Lu Yang from the Green Cloud Galaxy, real god Zi Jing from the Purple Electric Galaxy and real god Hui Yao from the Fire Jade Galaxy. Real god Chi Chi, who was in white, raised a bronze wine cup and said to the other 5 real gods, I thank the 5 of you for coming to visit me personally. You have also brought me many valuable gifts. I am very grateful. Since the 5 of you are leaving, I would like to propose a toast to the 5 of you. Pan Tian was a huge man who was 9 feet tall. He laughed and raised his wine cup. Brother Qi, you are too courteous. The 5 of us might have to rely on you in the future. Brother Pan is right. We will have to rely on Brother Qi in the future. I hope Brother Qi will not forget us when you are rich. Ha! The other 4 real gods also picked up their wine bottles one after another. They did not dare to slack off at all as they downed their wine bottles one after another. Qi smiled and drank the wine. He knew very well why the 5 true gods were so polite to him and even flattering him. It was because Tai Ching and Yu Qing had stayed in the Long River Galaxy for a period of time. At this moment, in a rather remote place within the palanquin, Panda, Yu Rong, and Zhou Wen silently watched all of this with eyes filled with reverence. At the same time, Panda was a little anxious. He was wondering why Pan Hua hadn't returned yet. There wasn't even any news of him. Half a month ago, he was still in contact with Pan Hu, but in this half a month, he had completely lost contact with Pan Hu. Even when he took the initiative to contact Pan Hu, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. What is going on with Pan Hua? I haven't been able to contact him for half a month. Panda whispered with a frown. Zhou Wen hurriedly said, Young master, rest assured. With Lord Pan Hu's strength, wouldn't killing that Long Wen still be effortless? I'm afraid that Lord Pan Hu is still in the fiery cloud region, so we can't contact him. Panda nodded and said, I know that. No matter how strong Long Wen is, can he be stronger than a false real god? It's just that I've been a little uneasy for the past few days. Roar. Suddenly, an earth-shattering beast roar came from outside the Long River Star. The terrifying sound wave formed layers of ring-shaped ripples and spread across the entire Long River Star, causing the Long River Star to shake. Countless cultivators in the Long River Star were terrified and involuntarily covered their ears. The sound wave was so powerful that it caused their eardrums to hurt. The faces of the 6 true gods who were drinking wine froze as they looked beyond the starry sky. With their powerful divine senses, they immediately sensed that outside the Long River Star, there was a terrifying flaming beast. It was like a meteor that was rushing toward the Long River Star. Moreover, the aura of the flaming beast was so strong that it made the 6 of them fearful. They knew that the flaming beast was definitely a divine beast of their level. It might even be stronger than them. Qi's face changed drastically. He immediately recognized the origin of the flaming beast. Wasn't it the divine beast that had been guarding the core ancient ruins of the fiery cloud region? Why would it come to the Long River Star? When the flaming beast approached, the 6 of them realized that there was a tall figure standing on the flaming beast. It was a young man in a black robe. His long hair was draped over his shoulders and fluttered in the wind. Although he wasn't handsome, he was charming. He was the type that the more you looked at him, the more comfortable you felt. However, what surprised the 6 real gods was that the young man's aura wasn't strong. He was only a late-stage divine realm expert. However, Qi frowned slightly. He felt that the young man in front of him gave him a familiar feeling. Although Qi had seen Zhuowen before, Zhuowen had deliberately changed his appearance before coming to the Long River Star. Therefore, Qi couldn't recognize Zhuowen immediately. Boom! When the flaming beast stopped in the sky above the Long River Star, raging flames erupted from the flaming beast's body. In the eyes of the cultivators in the Long River Star, the Long River Star was filled with endless flames as if it was burning the sky. At that moment, the cultivators in the Long River Star saw Zhuowen on the flaming beast. When they realized that Zhuowen was only a late-stage divine realm expert, they were in an uproar. Obviously, they didn't expect the owner of such a terrifying beast to be a late-stage divine realm expert. Qi raised his hand and cupped his hands towards Zhuowen on the flaming beast. He said, "My friend, I am real God Qi, the ruler of the Long River Star. May I know why you are here? Although Zhuowen's aura was only that of a late-stage divine realm expert, Qi didn't dare to be impolite because of the flaming beast. Today, I'm only here to kill 3 people. However, just as Qi finished his sentence, the young man on the flaming beast stomped his right foot and purple intent spread out from the bottom of his foot. After that, he turned into a shadow and disappeared from the flaming beast's body. Purple intent. Could this be level for Dao meaning? Qi couldn't help but exclaim. Not only him, but even Pan Tian and the other 4 real gods behind him were shocked. In the Wuxia heavenly region, those who could comprehend level 4 Dao meaning were demonic geniuses. Even in the core star region of the Wuxia heavenly region, Taiqing celestial realm, they were considered geniuses who were highly valued. While the 6 real gods were stunned, Zhuowen, who was originally supported by the purple intent, had already appeared on the bridal sedan. Pft. 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 Everyone saw 3 flashes of sword light. After that, the heads of Panda, Yu Rong, and Zhou Wen, who were still in doubt, flew into the sky. Their heads rolled a few times in the sky and exploded. Their souls were shattered and they couldn't be more dead. After killing Panda and the other 2, Zhuowen stomped his right foot and landed on the flaming beast again. His actions could be said to be smooth and smooth. After Panda and the other 2 died, everyone realized that the young man actually wanted to kill the 3 of them. After killing Panda and the other 2, Zhuowen planned to leave. The reason why he changed his appearance was mainly because he didn't want Qi to recognize him. In other words, it was unnecessary. When everyone saw Zhuowen driving the flaming beast away from the Long River Star, they all looked at Pan Tian who was on the bridal sedan. Everyone knew that Panda and the other 2 were from the Pan family in the Gold Sun Galaxy. They were descendants who were related to Pan Tian by blood. Sure enough, Pan Tian's face was extremely ugly. His face was green and white. When he saw Zhuowen driving the flaming beast away, he snorted coldly and stomped his right foot. In an instant, he dashed towards Zhuowen and shouted angrily, "Wait!" Zhuowen turned around and looked at Pan Tian indifferently. "What else do you want?" Zhuowen didn't know Pan Tian. Hence, he didn't particularly care about the man in front of him. Seeing Zhuowen's indifferent appearance, Pan Tian was enraged. He roared, "You're going too far. Panda is my junior. You didn't even say a word before killing him in front of me. You didn't even give me an explanation. You're not putting me, Pan Tian, in your eyes at all, right? Do you think that you can do whatever you want with a true god-level divine beast? You are just a late heaven god. How dare you be so arrogant with an external force?" Zhuowen sized up Pan Tian. Pan Tian's aura wasn't very strong. It was much weaker than Jing Hai in the Taiqing celestial realm. He probably hadn't even reached the true god level for 500 years and hadn't even survived a lightning disaster. With Zhuowen's current strength, he wasn't even afraid of an ordinary 2 disasters true god, let alone a mere Pan Tian. "Oh. What do you want as compensation?" Zhuowen didn't want to waste his breath on this person and asked directly. Pan Tian was stunned. He didn't expect this young man to be so easy to talk to. He licked his lips and looked at the flaming beast that Zhuowen was sitting on. He said, "If you give me this flaming beast, I will let bygones be bygones for killing Panda." Hustle and bustle. It seems that Panda isn't particularly important in your eyes. Zhuowen shook his head slowly and immediately pulled out the iron Lu sword. He stepped out with his right foot and plunged towards Pan Tian. Seeing that Zhuowen didn't rely on the flaming beast but went directly towards Pan Tian, countless cultivators in Long River Star were in an uproar. They thought this young man was crazy. Even the other 5 real gods were surprised. They obviously didn't understand Zhuowen's actions. On the other hand, Pan Tian grinned. A heavy sword had unknowingly appeared in his hand as he softly muttered, "Since you are courting death, don't blame me. I will take care of this huge fire beast on your behalf. You can go in peace. Then, Pan Tian swung his heavy sword and almost used all his strength. He wanted to kill Zhuowen with one hit. Seeing Pan Tian's move, Zhuowen knew that Pan Tian had the intention to kill. If so, I won't hold back. Zhuowen said calmly and immediately used Time of the Dark Moon. A crescent moon rose and hit the heavy sword heavily. Bang bang. Pan Tian groaned and immediately retreated a few thousand feet. He looked at the young man who didn't retreat at all in shock. Just as he was about to continue his attack, the young man was already in front of him. Chapter 1941. Six Desires Palace. As soon as Pan Tian died, the flame behemoth tacitly carried Zhuowen on its back and disappeared from the sight of the countless cultivators on Long River Star. True God Pan of the Gold Sun Galaxy was killed just like that. The entire Long River Star was terrifyingly silent. However, the silence only lasted for a moment. Then, like a volcano erupting, it surged out and spread across the entire Long River Star. The result of the battle between a true god and a late divine god was as they had expected. However, the person who was defeated was out of their expectation. Pan Tian, who was a true god, was killed by a late divine god youth in an instant. This scene would be imprinted in the memory of all the cultivators on the Long River Star. Chi and the other four were frozen on the spot. Their hearts were beating fast. Pan Tian's strength was not weaker than any of the five of them, but in the hands of the young man who only had the aura of a late god, he had actually been killed in a few exchanges. It was simply too unbelievable. This person's back is so familiar. I feel like I've seen him somewhere before. Chi murmured with a complicated look. The flaming beast was extremely fast. It was even faster than most astrolabes. In less than half a day, Zhuowen's soul consciousness had already seen the outline of the heavenly armor star in the distance. Zhuowen sat on the flaming beast and released the blood immortal. Xiao He had already brought the thunder fire sword into Devourer's space. She was soaking in the pool of fire spirit juice. If there was nothing urgent, Xiao He would not have come out. At this moment, the blood immortal came out and looked around. She was confused when she found that she was in a starry sky. Since Zhuowen had put her in the spiritual ring had been cut off from the outside world. Therefore, she did not know what had happened after leaving the starry sky. However, the blood immortal soon found that the surrounding temperature was extremely hot. The heat was not only on her body but also on her soul. Only now did the blood immortal notice that under his feet, there was a giant beast that was burning with flames all over its body. And this giant beast's aura was so strong that it made his heart beat faster. It was too terrifying. This was definitely a monster that was far more powerful than him. Master, where are we now? Seeing that he and Zhuowen were standing on the fire beast, the blood immortal knew that this fire beast was probably Zhuowen's new mount. To be able to tame such a terrifying mount, it was obvious that Zhuowen's strength had reached an unfathomable level. Therefore, he spoke very carefully. Zhuowen glanced at the blood immortal and said, "Blood immortal, I have promised to set you free a long time ago. It has dragged on for so long. It is time to fulfill my promise." The blood immortal's heart skipped a beat. She immediately knew that Zhuowen was going to get rid of her. Plop. Without hesitation, the blood immortal knelt down on the ground and cried out in tears, "Master! Little blood disciple has been with Master for so long. He can't leave Master. You can't abandon little blood disciple. Little blood disciple is only a demigod. He's just cannon fodder outside. Although little blood disciple is not strong enough, he has done a lot of things for Master. Especially at critical moments. Little blood disciple has never screwed up. Master, little blood disciple is loyal. Please don't chase me away. As she spoke, the blood immortal had already come to Zhuowen's feet and hugged his right leg. Her voice was filled with sorrow, like an abandoned woman. Zhuowen frowned slightly. Although he didn't like Blood Immortal's personality, Blood Immortal did help him a lot when he was on the verge of death. It was also because of this that Zhuowen didn't kill the Blood Immortal when she tried to bite him several times. You also know that you are not strong enough. You will only be a burden if you stay with me. Don't worry. I have 2 spirit congealing pills here. They can help you reach soul formation. Also, I will give you a lot of God stones. It will be enough for you to live in the long river system. After Zhuowen spoke, he took out an astrolabe and planned to give it to the Blood Immortal. Unfortunately, the Blood Immortal hugged him even tighter. She said quickly, "Master, are you really not worried about letting me go? You know that I know Devour's secret." Bang! A terrifying aura suddenly burst out. The Blood Immortal let out a muffled groan as she flew backward and landed heavily on the ground. At this moment, Zhuowen's face looked terrible. Although he thought that the secret of Devour's possession was well hidden, he didn't expect the Blood Immortal to have guessed it. The Blood Immortal was frightened. She just blurted it out to test Zhuowen's reaction. She didn't expect Zhuowen to have such a big reaction. She immediately knew that Devour's disappearance had something to do with Zhuowen. The infant Devour might have been subdued by Zhuowen. As for the possession, she had never thought about it. After all, it was too difficult. If Zhuowen hadn't relied on the strength of his soul, the celestial star meditation diagram, and the formless all-life, it would have been a fool's dream to try to possess the body of an infant. Even so, the process of his possession was extremely thrilling. "Master, don't worry. I won't tell anyone. As long as you don't let me go, I will keep this secret." Seeing Zhuowen's expression, the Blood Immortal knew that Devour had been subdued by Zhuowen. The reason why she didn't want to leave Zhuowen was because of Devour. The infant Devour's blood power was too strong. If she cultivated inside Devour's body, her cultivation speed would be countless times faster. After tasting such benefits, the Blood Immortal knew that it was a great opportunity. She couldn't let it slip away from her hands. Zhuowen slightly frowned. As he was about to speak, the thunder fire sword suddenly flew out from his body. Xiao He sat on the hilt, looking at the Blood Immortal below with a mocking smile. "Zhuowen, it happens that I lack a little brother. Let the Blood Immortal be my little brother." The Blood Immortal immediately walked forward, smiling at Xiao He flatteringly. "Greetings, Dragon Master. Little Blood Immortal greets you. Dragon Master, you must take me in. In the future, Little Blood Immortal will do anything for you. I won't even frown." Xiao He laughed, patting the Blood Immortal's shoulder. "Well said, well said. Follow me, Dragon Master, and I will let you live a good life." Then, the thunder fire sword spewed out black flames, wrapping around the Blood Immortal and disappearing back into Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen knew that Xiao He had entered Devour's inner world again. He had specially divided the rules for Xiao He in his inner world. As long as it was Xiao He, there wouldn't be any restrictions when entering his inner world. After all, Xiao He was also very powerful. If he was in danger, Xiao He could attack him unexpectedly and help him. After Xiao He returned to his inner world, she sent a message to Zhuowen. "Kid, you were too careless. Since the Blood Immortal knew about Devour's existence, you shouldn't have let him go. Luckily, he seemed to value the Devour's inner world. He didn't want to leave. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable." Zhuowen's eyes widened in shock. What Xiao He said was true. He had been possessed for a moment. Before Shi Yan had enough power, he shouldn't reveal Devour's secret to others. If it was a true god, it would be fine. If it was coveted by a Void Sky Almighty, it would be terrible. "Xiao He, I didn't think it through," Zhuowen said, slightly ashamed. You should pay attention next time. Also, the blood immortal's aptitude is very strong. In addition to the devourer's inner world, the blood immortal isn't stupid. He won't want to leave you. However, the blood immortal was born rebellious and dishonest. I will teach him a good lesson. After saying that, Xiao He laughed wickedly. Then, the laughter gradually disappeared. Zhuowen shook his head. He raised his head and saw the heavenly armor star not far away. He knew that he had arrived. However, when Zhuowen's divine sense swept over, he found that there were two figures floating above the heavenly armor star. One of the figures was carrying a zither on his back. He was extremely beautiful. It was Moyan Wuxiang. When Zhuowen's divine sense fell on the figure beside Moyan Wuxiang, his eyes suddenly narrowed into a dangerous arc. This figure was a person in a black robe. His entire body was wrapped so tightly that it was impossible to see his true appearance. However, Zhuowen could tell from the mysterious black-robed person's graceful figure that this person should be a woman. Moreover, Zhuowen felt that this black-robed person gave him an extremely strong sense of danger. Even though Zhuowen had many trump cards, this sense of danger rose in his heart for no reason. Obviously, the black-robed person in front of him was very strong. It was even beyond Zhuowen's imagination. This person was not a true peak true god expert, but a powerful void sky almighty. Thinking of this, Zhuowen was a little shocked. He was very confused about the origin of this black-robed person. How could such a terrifying expert suddenly appear in such a remote and desolate place like the Long River Galaxy? Moyan Wuxiang also saw Zhuowen, who was riding on the flame beast. Her beautiful eyes suddenly revealed a look of surprise. The mysterious black-robed person looked at Zhuowen indifferently. Then, she said to Moyan Wuxiang, "Don't waste too much time. Because you want to wait for this man, I have deliberately delayed a lot of time. I hope you can do as you say this time." Moyan Wuxiang nodded slightly. Then, she swept in front of Zhuowen. Her pair of autumn eyes stared at Zhuowen's face. It was as if she wanted to imprint Zhuowen's appearance into her memory. "Wuxiang, who is she?" Zhuowen frowned and asked. Moyan Wuxiang shook her head slightly and said, "Zhuowen, she is not an enemy. Don't be impulsive. The reason why I waited on the heavenly armor planet was actually to say goodbye to you." "Goodbye?" "Wuxiang, what do you mean?" Zhuowen was a little panicked. He knew that Moyan Wuxiang was going to leave, but he did not know why, but when he thought of her leaving, Zhuowen felt a little empty in his heart. Although Moyan Wuxiang's talent is not high, her understanding of music is the best I have ever seen. If she were to stay here, it would be a waste of her talent in music. You must have heard the trace of Taoist rhyme from Wuxiang's music. I know you have Taoist rhyme, but you don't know that Taoist rhyme is even rarer than your Taoist rhyme. Moreover, her music is even rarer. If such a monstrous talent doesn't enter the Six Desires Palace, it would be a waste. Chapter 1942. A phoenix seeking a phoenix, Six Desires Palace. Zhuowen was shocked. He naturally knew about the Six Desires Palace. It was a force established by the Master of the Six Desires Heaven. It was the most powerful and terrifying force in the Six Desires Heaven. It dominated all the forces in the Six Desires Heaven. Its status was similar to the Hall of Virtue in the Wuxia heavenly region. However, the Six Desires Palace's restrictions were much stronger than the Wuxia heavenly regions. It was not as casual and natural as the Taiqing Palace. When he was in the Taiqing Celestial Realm's Hidden Scriptures Pavilion, he learned a lot about the eight heavens. Moreover, the Six Desires Heaven happened to be one of the strongest heavens in the eight heavens. Naturally, he paid attention to the Six Desires Palace. The Six Desires Palace was made up of female cultivators. Most of their attacks were based on music. All kinds of music instruments could be used by the disciples of the Six Desires Palace to kill. Although Moyan Wushang's cultivation was low, the rhythm he had comprehended was indeed extraordinary. No wonder the black-robed man had taken a fancy to him. Although logic told Zhuowen that it was indeed the best choice for Moyan Wushang to go to the Six Desires Palace, Zhuowen was still worried. "Wushang, is this your own decision and not forced by others?" The black-robed man sneered. "Since you know about the Six Desires Palace, you should know that there are many cultivators in the 8 heavens who want to join the Six Desires Palace but can't. As for forcing you to do something so despicable, I won't do it." Moyan Wushang nodded. Then, he avoided Zhuowen's gaze and said, "Zhuowen, I'm willing." After saying this, Moyan Wushang suddenly looked at Zhuowen with a serious expression and said, "I'm too weak, I can't do anything for you and elder sister Qin Shui. I can't even help you with anything. I hate being this weak and I want to become stronger. I don't want the gap between us to become bigger and bigger." Zhuowen silently looked at the serious Moyan Wushang in front of him. He sighed in his heart. Although Moyan Wushang said that he wanted to become stronger, he was actually running away from his feelings for Mu Qinxue. Moyan Wushang did like Zhuowen, and he liked him a lot. However, she could see that Zhuowen had always been conflicted. She could see that Zhuowen loved Mu Qinxue very much. Moyan Wushang had done many things that had stimulated Zhuowen's heart. And Moyan Wushang's is. Wushang. Wushang Moyan Wushang was. Was Wushang World Wushang and Wushang Time Studio was? And Studio Wushang was studio. She also knew that Zhuowen went to the Brahma domain to find the sun and moon grass that could balance the yin and yang of Mu Qinxue's soul. Once he found it, Mu Qinxue would wake up again. Therefore, Moyan Wushang chose to run away in order not to make things difficult for Zhuowen. She didn't want Zhuowen to be conflicted. Yes, she was running away. Although she wanted to stay by Zhuowen's side, she didn't want the person she liked to be conflicted because of her. "Wushang, since it's your decision, I will respect it. However, after I deal with the matters at hand, I will go to the Six Desires Palace to find you. No matter what, I think we should face it. Whether it's you or me, it's the same," Zhuowen said softly. Moyan Wushang was startled and her eyes turned red. She knew that Zhuowen's words were very plain. However, he had already made a promise to her. In other words, he had already started to accept her. All of this had to wait until Mu Qinxue woke up. Zhuowen took out the green pearl and handed it to Moyan Wushang. He said, "Wushang, this is a low-grade true divine weapon. It should be of great help to you. Zhuowen, brother Zhuo, I like you. I have always liked you. Thank you for your promise. I will wait for you in the Six Desires Palace. I know you will definitely come. I am very happy now." Moyan Wushang's tears flowed down. She also threw herself into Zhuowen's arms. She was like an injured kitten, her delicate body twitching. Zhuowen gently stroked Moyan Wushang's back. A trace of pity rose in his heart. Moyan Wushang had done too much for him. He wasn't a cold-hearted person. He had seen what Moyan Wushang had done. Moreover, Moyan Wushang had done things for him without asking for anything in return. She had always been willing to be a green leaf, silently contributing for him. Zhuowen didn't want to let down such a woman. He didn't want her to suffer any harm because Moyan Wushang had invisibly entered his heart. Qin Shui. Wushang, Zhuowen suddenly felt guilty. Whether it was Mu Qinxue or Moyan Wushang, they had done a lot for him. However, he, Zhuowen, had not been able to repay their efforts. "Wushang, we should go." The black-robed person looked at this scene. Her heart seemed to be moved. Her voice also became much softer. "Give me time for a song." Moyan Wushang and Zhuowen separated. Then, she sat cross-legged in the void. She took down the zither on her back. Her slender jade-like hands began to strum and jump between the strings. The pleasant sound of the zither continued to reverberate. The black-robed person opened her mouth but didn't say anything. She just stood silently to the side and waited. Zhuowen quietly looked at Moyan Wuxiang. At this moment, he could clearly feel the powerful rhythm that was constantly touching the will in his body. At this moment, Moyan Wuxiang was playing a solo for him. The rhythm that he had comprehended was all contained in this song. Zhuowen simply released the fourth level of the will in his body. The purple will was like a purple snake that constantly swam around Zhuowen's body. It made Zhuowen's whole body filled with a mysterious color. The sound of the zither floated. The rhythm was faint. The purple will was misty. It was like water and milk. At this moment, the will on Zhuowen's body seemed to have resonated with the rhythm of Moyan Wuxiang's music. They were constantly intertwining. And in this intertwining, the power of the rhythm and the will was expanding. It was as if the two were complementing each other. The rhythm and the will are actually complementing each other and expanding. The black-robed person's pupils shrank. He couldn't help but murmur in a low voice. The song ended and the crowd dispersed. Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes. Moyan Wuxiang and the black-robed person had already left. However, his body was still surrounded by a thick purple will. This purple will was getting thicker and thicker. It almost dyed Zhuowen's entire body purple. Fifth level of the will, Zhuowen murmured in a low voice. He looked into the distance. It was as if he could see the beautiful figure leaving. He knew that Moyan Wuxiang was deliberately helping him to improve his will. Feng Shi returns to her hometown, roams the four seas in search of another phoenix. When I didn't meet her, there was no general, how could I comprehend today's rising hall? Feng Shi perches with me, I'll entrust her to be my concubine forever. Friendship is mutual and harmonious, who is the one who understands each other in the middle of the night? Zhuowen softly recited the lyrics of Feng Shi. His heart became more determined. Then, he turned into a stream of light and entered the heavenly armor planet. Zhuowen stayed on the heavenly armor planet for a few days. He told the higher-ups of the heavenly armor planet everything about him and his plans to take the heavenly armor planet away. At the same time, Zhuowen gave the congealing spirit pills to Long Xiaotian, Yuan Hongwen, Ji Qinyan, and the others. He hoped that they could reach the divine transformation realm soon. Although everyone felt that the matter of Devourer's possession was unbelievable, they all chose to believe in Zhuowen. This made Zhuowen feel much more relieved. 3 days later, Zhuowen stood in the sky above the heavenly armor planet. He waved his sleeve and a huge black vortex appeared. It directly sucked the entire heavenly armor planet into it and stored it in his inner world. Then, he rode the giant flame beast and completely left the Wuxia heavenly territory. Master, why don't you let me see Junior Brother? Isn't Junior Brother still alive? Two figures stood at the edge of the Wuxia heavenly territory. One of them was an old Taoist with a casual expression. The other was a woman in the same Taoist robe. However, this woman had an otherworldly temperament and was extremely beautiful. Lian Meng, he is no longer my disciple, nor is he your junior brother. Back then, he said that that was the last time he would call me master. Tai Qing shook his head. A rare complicated look appeared in his eyes. He finally understood why Zhuowen would sacrifice himself so generously. It turned out that he still had a trick up his sleeve. This was something that he had never expected. Lian Meng waved her fist and pouted, he's my junior brother. Tai Qing patted Lian Meng's head and said, there are some things that you still don't understand. However, I do know that he will definitely return to the Wuxia heavenly territory. At that time, you will be able to see him. However, with his current progress, it is only a matter of time before he surpasses you. Lian Meng refused to accept this and said, then I will cultivate properly. If junior brother really returns, my cultivation will definitely be higher than his. I don't need his protection. At that time, I will be the one to protect him. Tai Qing smiled. He knew that he had completely aroused Lian Meng's urge to cultivate. However, he was also shocked. He did not expect Zhuowen to improve so quickly. Now, he was actually able to instantly kill a true god like Pan Tian. Furthermore, he also discovered the obscure aura on Zhuowen's body. He was very familiar with that aura, but he did not expose it. Disciple. Calamities and blessings depend on each other, and blessings are hidden within calamities. At the same time that you have obtained a great opportunity, you will also have to bear a great calamity. If you can survive it, perhaps you will truly have the qualifications to speak with me as an equal. Tai Qing silently looked at Zhuowen's back in the distance. His eyes were filled with calmness. Zhuowen, who was on the flame beast, frowned. He kept having the feeling that he was being spied on. However, when he used his powerful divine sense to continuously scan the area, he did not find any clues. Could it be my misperception? Zhuowen muttered in a low voice. In the ice-cold and dark starry sky, countless stars flickered, emitting a terrifying light. A fiery light streaked across the starry sky, leaving behind an insignificant mark in the vast starry sky. The barrier between the heaven regions should be here. However, this barrier is extremely hard. It is almost impossible to break it and cross the heaven regions, unless it is a powerful void heaven expert. When Zhuowen landed not far from the barrier, he clearly felt a powerful stagnation coming from the barrier. It was as if countless mountains were pressing down on him, causing his speed to sharply decrease. It is said that there is a special passage between the heaven domain and the heaven domain. However, that passage is extremely dangerous. Those below the true God realm will definitely die. Even the true God realm has a high chance of falling. Only those extremely powerful true God realm experts have a high chance of passing through the passage. Chapter 1943. Space turbulence. Zhuowen's soul consciousness was extremely powerful, so he found the specific passage in just a blink of an eye. It was a cave that emitted colorful lights. The structure inside was like countless spirals spinning unceasingly. Shi Yan couldn't see what was inside the cave. Zhuowen was clear that this was the passage between the heaven territories, which was filled with space turbulence. The power of the space turbulence was so intimidating that warriors below the true God realm couldn't bear it. Entering the cave meant certain death. Zhuowen had also heard of the passage between the heavenly domain and the heavenly domain. The turbulence in the starry sky was too terrifying, but Zhuowen reckoned that with his current physique, he should still be able to withstand the turbulence. Thinking about that, Zhuowen took a step forward and jumped into the cave. Swoosh! Swoosh! The moment Zhuowen entered the cave, he immediately sensed a multicolored substance that resembled airflow around him. There was no air in the starry sky, so there was no airflow. However, Shi Yan could feel the intimidating air flow in this passage. Moreover, it was the colorful air flow. This five-colored air flow isn't simple. It contains a powerful strangling power. The moment Zhuowen sensed the five-colored air current, he could feel the terrifying destructive force that bombarded his body wherever the air current passed. Fortunately, before Zhuowen entered the cave, he had secretly activated Devour's body. With Devour's powerful body, he could resist the strangling power of the five-colored air flow. After making sure that he didn't miss anything, Zhuowen started to move deeper into the cave. However, this air flow was against the wind. Thus, when Zhuowen was moving forward, he met a strong resistance, which slowed down his speed. After flying for around 10 days, Zhuowen suddenly realized that the five-colored air flow's force had become stronger. Zhuowen's speed slowed down unceasingly, as if he was walking on the spot. Why did the resistance suddenly become so strong? Zhuowen furrowed his brows, his eyes frightened. He had to use the 5th level of Tao intent. The thick purple intent spread all over his body. Zhuowen moved as fast as lightning, getting rid of the resistance of the 5-colored air flow. However, after flying for half a day, Zhuowen realized that something was wrong. This was because the 5-colored air current seemed to be getting more and more terrifying. It was surging violently as if a storm was coming. Space storm. Zhuowen stopped abruptly as he saw the terrifying 5-colored storm surging several 100,000 feet in front of him. Moreover, there wasn't only one 5-colored storm, but 3. The 3 starry sky storms surged and blocked the entire passageway outside. The road ahead was also sealed tightly. Not good. Zhuowen's face darkened. Of course, he had heard of the space storm. Generally speaking, in the passageways between the heavenly domain and the heavenly domain, the most common thing that appeared was the chaotic flow of space. Although the space turbulence was intimidating, a slightly stronger true god could still pass through the space turbulence. However, once the space storm appeared, unless it was a top true god, most true gods wouldn't be able to withstand the terrifying impact of the space storm. Now, not only was there a space storm in front of Zhuowen, but there were 3 of them. To Zhuowen, it was definitely a double disaster. If I want to avoid this calamity, I can only pass through the space storm. Zhuowen sighed. He knew that he had to use all of his strength to fight for a chance of survival. Thinking of this, endless black air appeared around Zhuowen. The black air spread quickly, covering an area of 10,000 feet in an instant. Countless refined souls appeared in the black air. Innate super ability, Purgatory. Zhuowen used Devour's innate super ability. Then, the purple intent around his body became more intense. He took out the thunder fire sword with his right hand, and endless black flames surrounded him. With the weakening effect of Purgatory and the support of Tao intent, Zhuowen immediately used the 4 sword moves: sword-piercing brambles, first appearance of sword light, like the sun in the sky, and time of the dark moon. At the same time, he also released the purplish-black lightning from the massacre finger and heaven-devouring eye. After doing all this, Zhuowen activated the indestructible yellow art. Waves of yellow gas that emitted a dignified aura surrounded his body, causing him to shine with a golden light. He was like a god in heaven, inviolable. Zhuowen's attacks were launched with terrifying power. Even a true god of 2 disasters might not be able to survive under such attacks. It could be seen how terrifying the attacks were. Rumble. The terrifying roars continued to resound. The 3 space storms that were coming with menacing momentum paused for a while. At the same time, the space storm in the center suddenly created a huge gap. The moment the gap appeared, Zhuowen kicked with his right foot and quickly entered the gap. Looking at the space storm that was gradually fading away, Zhuowen's face turned slightly pale. His forehead was even covered with fine cold sweat. The space storm was really terrifying. Even if he used all of his attacks, he could only create a gap. Zhuowen suddenly discovered something. His spiritual consciousness radiated out and landed on a circular protrusion not far in front of him on the right side. After taking the round bulge, Zhuowen realized that it was an oval-shaped colored stone. The colored stone was flowing with colorful light and emitted a sweet smell. Space-quenching stone. Zhuowen squinted his eyes. As the name suggested, space-quenching stone was a stone that existed in the space turbulence and had been quenched for countless years. It could be said that space-quenching stone was rarer than the space storm. The stone's main function was to quench a cultivator's spiritual soul, making it purer and more stable. This is a good thing. Zhuowen's eyes twinkled. He pointed with his right hand and pressed the space-quenching stone deep between his eyebrows, placing it in his spiritual soul. The space-quenching stone had a subtle effect on spiritual soul quenching, and it wouldn't have a great effect immediately. Hence, Zhuowen planned to place the space-quenching stone in his spiritual space. As time went by, He knew that the effect of space-quenching stone on his spiritual soul-quenching would become more obvious. After obtaining the space-quenching stone, Zhuowen was in a good mood. He knew that as long as he completely refined the space-quenching stone, his spiritual soul wouldn't be comparable to an ordinary real god's. The power that the soul-absorbing divine needle could unleash would naturally increase. Another 2 months passed. Zhuowen was extremely careful in the turbulent flow of the starry sky. Although he encountered a starry sky storm later on, he managed to avoid them one by one. Moreover, the starry sky storms that appeared later on were all solitary and were far less powerful than the first one. It seems that the end of the space turbulence is in front of me. Not far ahead, Zhuowen realized that it was no longer colorful but a starry sky. He knew that he was about to reach the other side. In other words, he was about to reach the boundary of the great Brahma domain. Just as he was about to rush out of the passageway, a figure in a sorry state flew back and happened to crash into Zhuowen's arms. Zhuowen subconsciously hugged the figure, and a delicate fragrance slowly drifted into his nose. Only then did he realize that the person who was flying back was actually a woman. The lady was about 20 years old. Her face was pale and there was blood at the corner of her mouth. She was short of breath and obviously, she was seriously injured. At that moment, the lady opened her bright eyes and looked into Zhuowen's eyes. She suddenly let out a soft cry and wanted to get up. However, she helplessly realized that her injuries were too serious and she collapsed in Zhuowen's arms again. She didn't know why she suddenly appeared in the arms of a strange man. She clearly remembered that she was forced into the space turbulence known as the Land of Death. With her cultivation of peak divine realm, she would definitely die if she entered the space turbulence. This is the space turbulence. I'm still alive. The lady looked around and found that there were indeed colorful chi flows around her. This was the inside of the space turbulence. But logically speaking, she should have been strangled to death by these colorful chi flows. She didn't expect to be safe and sound. Even the colorful chi flows around her had bypassed her. The colorful chi flows were naturally not because of her, so she quickly thought of the strange man who was holding her in his arms. She immediately knew that the reason why the colorful chi flows didn't attack her was because of this man in front of her. Don't move. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that I can still protect you and block all the chi flows around you. If you don't want to die, you'd better lie on my body. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. Although he wasn't afraid of the colorful chi flows with his physical body, the sudden addition of another person put a lot of pressure on him. So he immediately warned the lady in his arms. The lady let out a low cry and immediately lay in Zhuowen's arms, not daring to move. Although this position was a little embarrassing, the lady had to do it. If the outside world knew that she was lying on a strange man's body in such a position, she really wouldn't have the face to see anyone. Zhuowen's right hand was around the lady's waist. He could clearly feel that the lady's body trembled the moment his right arm touched her waist. However, he didn't have any dirty thoughts. The exit of the space turbulence was close at hand. He didn't want to fail at the last moment. Let's go. Zhuowen exerted the heaven and earth immortality to the extreme. Golden chi surrounded the two of them. Then, like a vigorous ape, Zhuowen rushed out of the exit and entered the space outside. I'm still alive. Seeing the familiar starry sky, the lady's beautiful eyes were filled with joy. However, before she could smile, the arm that was holding her waist suddenly loosened. She cried out in surprise and almost fell into the starry sky. If she hadn't reacted in time, she would have made a fool of herself. The lady's starry eyes stared at Zhuowen angrily. Just as she was about to say something, Zhuowen slowly took out the star plate and immediately rushed in a direction. He knew that this should be the great Brahma domain. He planned to find a nearby galaxy and buy the star map of the great Brahma domain. After all, he didn't know the general map of the great Brahma domain, let alone the specific location of the Yin, Qing, Yuan, and Quebec. Chapter 1944. Brahma Starzhuowen stepped on the astrolabe and slowly moved forward. After he came out, his powerful divine sense had already discovered a planet not far away. He planned to go to that planet first and then try to understand where he was in the great Brahma domain. Soon, the woman that he had saved blocked his path. "Why are you stopping me?" Zhuowen frowned. "You can't go there. Your consciousness should have detected a planet in front, right? I'm telling you clearly, don't go to that planet, or you'll regret it," the woman said in a deep voice. Zhuowen raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect the woman in front of him to be so cautious. Could it be that the planet in front of him was a scourge? Seeing Zhuowen stop, the woman sighed softly. Just as she was about to say something, her expression suddenly changed. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. He found a consciousness extremely wantonly sweeping over and firmly locking onto him and the woman. "I didn't expect a little woman like you to still be alive. How did you walk out of that chaotic space?" A surprised voice was heard. Then, a figure flew over from not far away. It was a midget with a dark green face. He carried a giant axe on his back. He looked neither fish nor fowl. However, the midget's aura was extremely powerful. Zhuowen estimated that he should be a fake true god. The midget didn't even look at Zhuowen. This Zhuowen's aura was only a late-stage heavenly god. He was no threat to him at all. "Xiao Tong, a wise man submits to circumstances. Hand over the ice flame profound yellow Ganoderma." "This thing is useless to you," the midget said indifferently. The woman called Xiao Tong bit her cherry lips and said in a deep voice, "Qi Cheng, you're going too far. This ice flame profound yellow Ganoderma is our sect master's life-saving item. Don't even think about taking it away." The midget sneered and said, "Your sect master is just a person who's about to die. Using this ice flame profound yellow Ganoderma is a waste. You might as well just hand it over to me. However, since you don't want to hand it over, don't blame me for being rude. This time, I won't give you the chance to escape into the turbulence of space." The midget was already impatient. He took out a huge axe with his right hand and swung it at Xiao Tong. Although the midget's target was Xiao Tong, because Xiao Tong was very close to Zhuowen, the range of the midget's attack also included Zhuowen. Judging from the dwarf's strength, it was obvious that he intended to kill Zhuowen as well. In other words, killing Zhuowen was just a side benefit to him. "I've implicated you. You should leave quickly. I'll do my best to stop Qi Cheng." Xiao Tong's pretty face was ghastly pale, but she clearly distinguished between kindness and hatred. After she spoke to Zhuowen, she withdrew a green sword and intended to fight the dwarf to the death. Unfortunately, before Xiao Tong could make a move, Zhuowen's iron dew sword had already attacked. Only to see his iron reed sword leave his hand, fiercely exploding in front of the dwarf. "It's merely a high-quality heavenly divine artifact," the midget glanced at the iron dew sword with extreme disdain, then casually swung his huge axe down. Afterwards, the midget's pupils abruptly shrunk. He felt that the iron dew sword contained a terrifying energy. Then, he vomited a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. And it was precisely in the instant when the midget was sent flying that the iron dew sword's speed was extremely fast. It instantly streaked across the midget's forehead and completely destroyed his soul. From the moment the midget attacked to when he was killed by Zhuowen, it was merely an instant. Xiao Tong didn't even have time to react before the midget was killed. Seeing Zhuowen unhurriedly put away the midget's spiritual ring, Xiao Tong stood to the side in a daze. The young man before her clearly emitted an aura of a late heavenly deity. How could his strength be so terrifying? The false true god Xiao Tong was actually killed in a single strike. However, Xiao Tong soon recalled that it was this man before her who saved her in the turbulence of space. She had personally experienced how terrifying the turbulence of space was. For the man before her to be able to survive in there and even save her, it could be seen that this man was extraordinary and powerful. After regaining her senses, Xiao Tong looked at Zhuowen with a gaze filled with reverence and a trace of passion. She knew that her eldest senior sister could be saved. After putting away the spiritual ring, Zhuowen took a quick glance at Xiao Tong. Then, he continued to drive the astrolabe forward unhurriedly. Soon after, he said indifferently. Earlier, you said that we can't go to that planet. Is it because of this person? Xiao Tong shook her head and said. Not entirely. That planet is called the Brahma Star. It's a border planet of the Great Brahma domain. There are no laws or regulations on this planet. Everything depends on one's strength and power. It's an extremely chaotic planet. Heavenly deities are often in danger of dying on this planet. Zhuowen nodded. It seemed that Xiao Tong thought he was an ordinary late heavenly deity cultivator. That was why she advised him not to go to the Brahma Star. However, after seeing Zhuowen kill the dwarf, she didn't try to persuade him again. Obviously, she thought that Zhuowen was strong enough. Even Zhuowen could feel that after he showed his strength, Xiao Tong's eyes were blazing with passion. It was as if he was some kind of extremely precious treasure. This little girl's name is Xiao Tong. I'm a disciple of the Crepe Myrtle sect in the Great Brahma Domain's second-grade star system. May I know the name of my benefactor? Xiao Tong said enthusiastically. Zhuowen. Zhuowen said lightly. This place was the Great Brahma Domain, not the Wuxia Domain, so Zhuowen didn't need to hide his real name. Big brother Zhua, your cultivation is so high. You must be from a famous sect, right? Xiao Tong said as if they were close friends. I'm just a rogue cultivator. By the way, miss, did you buy the Ice Flame Profound Yellow Ganoderma from the Brahma Star? Zhuowen suddenly asked. From Xiao Tong's words, he could tell that the Brahma Star was different. Moreover, the Brahma Star was the only planet on the border. It was impossible for Xiao Tong to bring a level 5 divine herb to such a dangerous planet. Then there was only one possibility. Xiao Tong bought the Ice Flame Profound Yellow Ganoderma from the Brahma Star, and for some reason, it was targeted by the dwarf. When Zhuowen mentioned the Ice Flame Profound Yellow Zoysia, Xiao Tong's expression immediately tensed up. She stammered, Big brother Zhua is right. I did buy this from the Brahma Fiend Star, but I used our sect's divine stones to buy this Ice Flame Profound Yellow Zoysia in hopes of saving our sect master. Seeing Xiao Tong like this, Zhuowen smiled slightly. He really didn't covet the Ice Flame Profound Yellow Ganoderma in Xiao Tong's hands. One had to know that in the Fiery Cloud region, Zhuowen had obtained many kinds of divine herbs, including many kinds of level 5 divine herbs. Zhuowen also had the Ice Flame Mysterious Yellow Ganoderma, and its quality was extremely high. Naturally, he would not take a fancy to the Ice Flame Mysterious Yellow Ganoderma in Xiao Tong's hands. Xiao Tong heaved a sigh of relief in her heart when she saw that Zhuowen didn't mention the Ice Flame Profound Yellow Zoysia. She knew very well that with Zhuowen's strength, she had no room to refuse if he wanted her Ice Flame Profound Yellow Zoysia. Miss Xiao, I would like to purchase a star map of the waxing, waning, waxing, 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 and waning phases. Is there such a star map for the Brahma Fiend Star? Zhuowen asked suddenly. Waxing and waning. Xiao Tong was stunned, and then she looked at Zhuowen with a strange expression and said, Big brother Zhua, the yin, yang, waxing, and crescent moons are extremely famous danger zones in the Great Brahma region. That place is very dangerous, and it is said that many true gods have fallen there. Where are you going? Danger and opportunity coexist. Since you want an opportunity, you naturally have to pay a price. Moreover, I just want to take a look. I don't necessarily need to enter the waxing and waning, Zhuowen said lightly. Xiao Tong agreed and said in a deep voice, although the Brahma star is a border planet and is full of danger, the flow of cultivators is great. The shops and auctions here are extremely famous even in the heaven domain. If Big Brother Shua needs the waxing and waning star map, the Brahma star will definitely sell it, but the price is not low. Moreover, I heard that the entrance to the waxing and waning is mysterious. It is not easy to enter. You need a specific method. Zhuowen raised his eyebrows and asked curiously, a specific method? What kind of method is needed? Xiao Tong shook her head and said, I don't know. The waxing and waning are extremely far from here. The Brahma star is the eastern border of the great Brahma domain, but the waxing and waning are close to the western border. The distance between the two stretches across the entire heaven domain. With my meager strength, I am not qualified to go to the waxing and waning. I only know about it from others. Zhuowen hadn't expected the yin-yang, waxing moons, and crescent moons to be so far away from here. He had personally experienced the vastness of the heaven domain. Even a void heaven supreme expert would need a long time to travel across the heaven domain, let alone Zhuowen. According to Zhuowen's current speed, if Zhuowen didn't eat or drink for thousands of years, it would be difficult for him to travel across the great Brahma domain. Therefore, Zhuowen's expression became unsightly. Xiao Tong also noticed that Zhuowen's expression wasn't good. She smiled and said, Big Brother Zhuo, don't worry. There are ancient and powerful teleportation arrays in the core star field of the great Brahma domain. These teleportation arrays can teleport people from the surrounding star field to a designated location. If Big Brother Zhuo really wants to go to the waxing and waning, you can spend a certain amount of divine stones and use the ancient star field teleportation array to go to the star system near the waxing and waning. Generally, powerful cultivators who want to go to the waxing and waning do this. However, there seems to be some restrictions. I'm not too sure what the restrictions are. Hearing this, Zhuowen's expression eased a lot. He cupped his fists towards Xiao Tong and said, Many thanks for the reminder, Miss Xiao. Xiao Tong waved her hand embarrassedly and suddenly became hesitant. Miss Xiao, is there something wrong? Zhuowen asked. Xiao Tong sighed softly and said, Big Brother Zhuo, Qi Cheng, who you killed just now, wasn't a rogue cultivator. He was a member of the Jianghong Trading Company, one of the 3 great trading companies on the fiery fiend star. I hope Big Brother Zhuo will be careful when you enter the fiery fiend star. Zhuowen nodded, but he still stared at Xiao Tong. He could see that Xiao Tong still had something to say. Xiao Tong gritted her teeth. She suddenly bent down and bowed deeply to Zhuowen. She said, Big Brother Zhuo, Xiao Tong begs you to help me with something. You're so strong, so you'll definitely be able to help me. Chapter 1945. Jianghong Trading Company. Xiao Tong's face was pale and her body was trembling. She raised her head and looked at Zhuowen with a cold expression. She knew that her request was a little too much, but she really didn't know who else could help her. Although the Crepe Myrtle sect was a second-grade galaxy and there were many true gods in the sect, they were at the border and were too far away from the Crepe Myrtle galaxy. If she relied on herself to fly, she wouldn't be able to return even after a few hundred years. She could only return through the teleportation array on the Brahma Terminus star. However, the teleportation array on the Brahma Terminus star was under the surveillance of the Jianghong Trading Company. Once she entered the teleportation array, she would be immediately discovered by the Jianghong Trading Company and captured. Moreover, the Crepe Myrtle sect disciples who came to the Brahma Terminus star to purchase the Ice Flame mysterious yellow Ganoderma were all captured by the Jianghong Trading Company. She was the only one who took the opportunity to slip away. However, she was forced into the turbulent space by Qi Cheng. Although she knew that her request was too much, she had no other choice. She could only beg the man in front of her. Brother Zhuo, I'm sorry. I went too far. Xiao Tong bit her lower lip and remained silent. She didn't dare to speak anymore. Seeing Xiao Tong like this, Zhuowen shook his head and used the shapeless all-life to completely change Xiao Tong's aura and appearance. Miss Xiao, this is a powerful technique to change one's appearance. Ordinary true gods wouldn't be able to detect it, so take care of yourself. After Zhuowen finished speaking, he entered the Brahma Terminus star, leaving Xiao Tong standing there in a daze. The moment Zhuowen entered the Brahma Terminus star, he smelled a pungent smell of blood. Then, he looked up and saw that the entire sky of the Brahma Terminus star was filled with blood clouds. Most of the buildings on the planet were blood red. Most of the forces on the Brahma Terminus star were gathered in the Brahma Terminus city. The Brahma Terminus city was the core city of the Brahma Terminus star. There were many shops selling all kinds of things, such as divine herbs, divine pills, divine weapons, and even divine beasts. Here, as long as you had divine stones, there was almost nothing you couldn't buy. This was also the reason why the Brahma Fiend star was so famous in the entire Great Brahma domain. After all, this was considered the most prosperous planet in the Great Brahma domain. However, it was also the most chaotic and evil planet. The law of the jungle was much more blatant here than in other regions. It was all too common to kill without a word. Zhuowen had seen many such cases along the way. You just arrived. The guards of Fan Fiend City looked at Zhuowen from head to toe as they mocked him. Zhuowen glanced at a late heavenly god cultivator beside him. After handing over 100 god stones, he took out 100 god stones from his spirit ring and handed them to the guard. Zhuowen was about to enter. Hold on. Since this is your first time here, you'll have to charge a little more. Take out 1,000 divine stones. The guard said calmly. Zhuowen slowly turned his head, and a ray of terrifying divine light shot out from his eyes. Instantly, the guard's body trembled. He felt a terrifying pressure from Zhuowen's eyes that he had never felt before. This pressure was like a dark cloud that came crashing down mightily, occupying his entire heart. The guard took a few steps back, but Zhuowen didn't care at all. He slowly walked into Fan Fiend City. Another guard looked at the guard in surprise and said, "What's wrong with you? Why do you look like a fool all of a sudden? You don't even ask for divine stones." The guard shook his head and looked at Zhuowen's back with fear. He said fearfully, "This man is too scary. I don't dare to provoke him." After entering Fan Fiend City, Zhuowen casually strolled through the streets. It was an eye-opener for him. In Fan Fiend City, there were indeed all kinds of shops. Moreover, there was a dazzling array of things inside. There were all kinds of things, and there were all kinds of things. Suddenly, a skinny man stopped in front of Zhuowen. Zhuowen frowned slightly as he stared at the skinny man in front of him. This man's cultivation wasn't high. He was only a demigod. He didn't know why this man stopped him. "Sir, is this your first time in Fan Fiend City?" The skinny man immediately smiled obsequiously. Zhuowen nodded noncommittally. The obsequious smile on the skinny man's face deepened. He said, "I am Ah Qian. I have been in Fan Fiend City for more than 70 years. I am very familiar with this place. If you want to quickly understand Fan Fiend City, I can help you. Also, if you need any information, I will try my best to get it for you." Although the scrawny man's strength wasn't strong, his ability to read people's expressions was top-notch. He could tell at a glance that Zhuowen was a newcomer and didn't know much about this place. He would definitely need a veteran like him, who had been through many hardships in Fan Fiend City, to lead the way. Zhuowen sized up the skinny man in front of him. It was his first time in Fan Fiend City. Indeed, he needed someone he knew to lead him. Moreover, he wanted to buy a star chart here. After walking around for a while, he realized that none of the shops sold star charts. Just as he was about to ask someone, the skinny man had already jumped out. "Sure. How do you calculate the cost?" Zhuowen knew that this skinny man, Qian, should be a specialist in this kind of business in Fanfin City. Hence, he directly asked for the price. Qian rubbed his hands and said, "My lord, it is not expensive. 1 divine stone per day is enough. As long as my lord has any orders, Qian will immediately do it for you. However, if there is any additional cost, my lord will have to pay for it." Zhuowen nodded and casually threw 10 divine stones to Qian. He said, "I will hire you for 10 days. First, help me find an inn." Qian took the 10 divine stones and smiled. He quickly nodded and bowed. "My lord, the inns here are very expensive. Qian has a more affordable place. It is just that the location is a little remote, so, sure, as long as you can find a place to stay." Qian quickly responded. He then led Zhuowen to the inn he was staying at. The inn that Qian was staying at was indeed very remote. The price was also very cheap. Fortunately, Zhuowen wasn't picky about his accommodations. Hence, he didn't show any dissatisfaction. "Qian, I just walked around Fanfin City for a while. I didn't see any star charts being sold in the shops on both sides of the street. Are the star charts in Fanfin City so rare?" Zhuowen sat in the room and asked Qian. Qian was startled. He then said strangely, "My lord, in the Great Brahma region, star charts are relatively common. However, in Fanfin Star, they are extremely rare. This is because everything in Fanfin Star is controlled by the 3 major trading companies. Ordinary star charts can only be purchased from the 3 major trading companies." "The 3 major trading companies? Which is the nearest trading company?" Zhuowen asked. "My lord, it's the Jianghong Trading Company. Are you going there now?" Qian asked respectfully. Zhuowen shook his head and said, "No need. Help me find out if the Jianghong Trading Company has the star map of the locations of the waning moons. I will go to the Jianghong Trading Company tomorrow to purchase them." Qian nodded and left the room. The next day, Qian came to Zhuowen's room and said with some hesitation, "My lord, I've asked around. The waning, waxing, waning, and waning star maps are extremely rare in the Jianghong Trading Company. Therefore, the Jianghong Trading Company's asking price is very high. How much?" Zhuowen replied with a flick of his sleeve. 300,000 godstones. Qian looked at Zhuowen, gritted his teeth, and announced the price. Zhuowen frowned. A mere star chart actually cost 300,000 divine stones. What was the difference between this and robbery? However, Zhuowen urgently needed this kind of star map. Although the price was expensive, Zhuowen still planned to buy it. "My lord, do you really plan to buy it?" Seeing Zhuowen step out of the room, Qian was astonished. At the same time, his heart was filled with shock. He knew that the Zhuowen in front of him could very well have 300,000 divine stones, or even more. Thinking of this, Qian became even more respectful of Zhuowen. He knew that a cultivator who could possess so many divine stones was definitely not simple. The Jianghong Trading Company was indeed not far. Qian and Zhuowen only walked for half an hour before they arrived at the Jianghong Trading Company. The Jianghong Trading Company was extremely large. Inside, there were layers upon layers of pavilions. It was extremely grand and majestic. There were people coming and going, and it was very lively. Under Qian's lead, Zhuowen came to a rather luxurious counter in the Jianghong Trading Company. A female cultivator with a professional smile stood in front of the counter. She looked at Zhuowen and said, "Customer, is there anything you need?" "I need the waning, waxing, waning, and waning star maps," Zhuowen said indifferently. Hearing this, the female cultivator's eyes lit up. The value of a waning, waxing, waning, and waning star map was not low. A cultivator who could afford such an item must have a great background. "Customer, please wait a moment. I will go in and retrieve the star map for you. After the female cultivator finished speaking, she walked into the inner room. After a while, she came out again and handed an emerald green jade slip to Zhuowen. After receiving the jade slip, Zhuowen looked through it. Then, he handed the storage bag with 300,000 divine stones to the female cultivator. Dear customer, our company will be holding an auction 3 days from now. If you are interested, you can take this VIP card and participate in the auction 3 days from now. After receiving the divine stone, the female cultivator handed over a jade card and said with a smile. After buying the star map, Zhuowen was in a good mood. He took the jade card from the female cultivator. Zhuowen did not care much about this item. His main goal this time was the star map. Since he had bought the star map, he did not plan to stay here any longer. The Jianghong Trading Company is also holding an auction that is held once every 3 years. My lord, I am afraid that there will be some good items in this auction. Ah Qian suddenly said excitedly. Zhuowen was a little surprised by Ah Qian's expression. However, after Ah Qian's explanation, he realized that the auction held by the Jianghong Trading Company this time was not ordinary. Generally speaking, trading companies would often hold auctions. However, they were relatively small and the items auctioned were not considered precious. However, this was an auction that was held once every 3 years. It was extremely grand. There would probably be many good items in this auction. Last year, the large-scale auction held by the Dazzling Light Trading Company had auctioned off a level 7 divine medicine, which caused countless experts to fight over it. Chapter 1946. Sequoia, esteemed guest, there are indeed some good things in this auction. According to my insider information, there will be a level 7 divine pill. If esteemed guest is really interested, you must attend in 3 days. The female cultivator winked at Zhuowen. Zhuowen showed a faint smile, although he knew that this female cultivator deliberately used this gimmick to attract him to the auction, but Zhuowen still intended to go to the auction to take a look. He was very clear on how precious a level 7 divine pill was. Even if he didn't have many divine stones on him, he still wanted to see what this legendary level 7 divine pill was. After leaving the Jianghong Trading Company, Zhuowen went straight back to the inn and immediately went into seclusion. He planned to use these 3 days to take a good look at the waning star chart. 3 days later, Zhuowen walked out of his room, but his expression was somewhat gloomy. According to the star map, anyone who wanted to use the teleportation array in the core star field of the Great Brahma domain had to be a member of a star field or settle down in the core star field. Zhuowen hadn't achieved either of these, so once he reached the core star field, it would be wishful thinking to use the teleportation array there. Looks like we can only take one step at a time. After this auction, I will head to the core star field and see if there is a chance to use the teleportation array to go to the waning moon. Zhuowen rubbed his temples and muttered in a low voice. Milord. When Zhuowen opened the door, Ah Qian was like a cat that smelled blood. He immediately appeared in front of Zhuowen's door with a fawning smile. When will the auction begin? Zhuowen asked. Ah Qian hurriedly said, today is noon, there are still 4 hours. Zhuowen nodded and said in a low voice, seems like there's still some time. Do you know where I can buy the mysterious yellow qi? Ah Qian was startled and immediately said, my lord, the black and yellow qi is rather common. Every shop in Fan Fin City sells it. Zhuowen shook his head and said, I know. It's just that the amount of profound yellow qi in those shops is too little. I need more. Do you know where the profound yellow qi in those shops comes from? Ah Qian pondered for a moment before saying, the mysterious yellow qi is mainly extracted from the mysterious yellow or vein. The mysterious yellow or vein in the Brahma Fiend star is not abundant. The only or vein is in the hands of the Song clan in Song Ren City. The mysterious yellow qi in the shops in Brahma Fiend Star is basically transported from the Song clan in Song Ren City. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded his head. He was still wary of the Song family. He was very clear that his indestructible mysterious yellow required a large amount of mysterious yellow qi. He was afraid that ordinary mysterious yellow qi would not be enough to satisfy him. Since there were still 4 hours before the auction would begin, Zhuowen and Qian began to stroll around Fan Fiend City. Soon enough, Zhuowen arrived at the Fan Fiend City's teleportation array. The teleportation array was extremely lively. There were crowds of people queuing up, forming a dark mass. It was obvious that there were many cultivators coming and going at the teleportation array. Did you guys know? It is said that Qi Cheng from the Jianghong Trading Company has been killed. It is said that the person who killed Qi Cheng is Xiao Tong from the Crepe Myrtle sect, who was previously wanted by the Jianghong Trading Company. It can't be. That Xiao Tong is only a late-stage heavenly god. How could she kill Qi Cheng? Could it be that she used some despicable means? It should be. Yesterday, that Xiao Tong was caught by the people from the Jianghong Trading Company. That Xiao Tong admitted that she killed Qi Cheng, so, suddenly, a conversation between a pair of cultivators came from the side. When Zhuowen heard it, his pupils could not help but shrink. He did not expect that Xiao Tong would be caught. Logically speaking, his shapeless all-life was extremely secretive. As long as that Xiao Tong did not court death and immediately teleported away, she should not have been caught. However, the problem now was that not only had Xiao Tong been caught, but the whole city knew about it. At the same time, Zhuowen had a good impression of Xiao Tong for not ratting him out. Forget it. This matter is somewhat related to me. If there's a chance, I should rescue her. Zhuowen sighed in his heart. Of course, Zhuowen would not act rashly because of this. Although he did feel sympathy for that Xiao Tong, if the Jianghong Trading Company was really that powerful, he would not seek his own death. Thinking of this, Zhuowen looked at Qian and asked, Qian, do you know how powerful the Jianghong Trading Company is? Are there any void sky experts among them? Qian was stunned. Soon after, he said hesitantly, My lord, the founders of the 3 great trading companies are all void sky experts. However, there is only one of them. 3 void sky experts are the pinnacle experts in the Fan Fiend Star. Although some void sky experts occasionally come to the Fan Fiend Star, most of them come for the star's auction. Since the Jianghong Trading Company is auctioning a level 7 divine pill this time, I'm afraid some void sky experts will come to bid for it. Hearing this, Zhuowen frowned slightly. Although his current strength was not bad, it was still too difficult for him to fight against a void sky expert. Moreover, it was not that there were no experts among the true gods. For example, a true god who had survived more than a dozen calamities would be a true freak. Moreover, although Zhuowen's speed was rather fast, it was only comparable to an ordinary true god. Even if he had the support of the 5th level Dao intent, it was still impossible for him to be comparable to a void sky expert. However, Zhuowen quickly thought of the void sky divine ability, Torch Dragon 9-headed infant. Up until now, Zhuowen had never cultivated the Torch Dragon 9-headed infant. The reason was not that Zhuowen was unwilling, but that he was unable to cultivate it at the moment. The Torch Dragon 9-headed infant was a powerful movement technique that required dragon wings to be used. Moreover, the wings had to be at the divine dragon level or above. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to cultivate it. Of course, the introduction of the divine ability mentioned that the Torch Dragon wings were the best item to cultivate this divine ability. Unfortunately, the Torch Dragon was a powerful divine dragon in the legends. It was said that it had already surpassed the category of divine dragons. How could it have such a thing? The requirements for the divine dragon wings were much lower, but it was still very rare. Xiao Hei's original body was the Great Nether Saint Dragon, but it had not reached the divine dragon level. This showed how rare divine dragons were. Moreover, he had also heard that the legendary divine dragons were one of the most powerful races in the universe. They were a race as powerful as Devour. Although there were more of them than Devour, it was not much more. Zhuowen sighed softly. At this moment, he was somewhat hesitant. He could not afford to provoke a Void Sky expert at the moment. He really did not want to provoke a Void Sky expert because of Xiao Tong. However, since Zhuowen knew that Xiao Tong had been captured, he could not bear to see her being captured. I can use the shapeless all-life to sneak into the prison to take a look. If it doesn't work, I can use the divine stones to redeem Xiao Tong. Zhuowen thought to himself. After all, the Jianghong Trading Company was a business. Compared to people, he knew that the Jianghong Trading Company valued the divine stones more. Although Zhuowen did not have many divine stones, he had a lot of fire spirit juice and many divine herbs. His foundation could even be compared to a galaxy. However, Zhuowen had planted all his divine herbs in the heavenly armor star in Devour's internal world. Moreover, Zhuowen had placed many divine stones in the heavenly armor star. Under the influence of the divine stones, the heavenly armor star had subtly transformed into a denser and more powerful planet. He believed that as he continued to transform the heavenly armor star, it would definitely become an extremely powerful planet in the future. By then, there would be more and more heavenly gods. What he needed to do was to continuously increase the number of planets in his body and use other planets to serve the heavenly armor star. After strolling around for a while, Zhuowen and Qian entered the auction house that the Jianghong Trading Company had set up. It had to be said that the Jianghong Trading Company's current flow of people was really terrifying. Fortunately, Zhuowen had a VIP card. After handing it to the staff of the trading company, the staff respectfully led him to the VIP box around the auction house. As for Qian, Zhuowen sent him away. There were many arrays in the VIP box. They were mainly used to shield one's divine sense. This was to prevent others from spying on the owner of the box. However, Zhuowen's divine sense was extremely powerful. Moreover, it had been tempered by the starry sky-quenching stone. Not only was his divine sense powerful, but its penetrative power was also much stronger than that of ordinary cultivators. If he wanted to enter the shielding array outside the box, he could do it. However, if he did so, he would definitely be discovered by the cultivators in the box. At that time, it would cause unnecessary trouble. As soon as noon arrived, the auction house instantly became lively and clamorous. In the middle of the auction house, an enchanting woman walked over. This woman was dressed in revealing clothes, and her walking posture was even more provocative as she twisted her waist like a water snake. She looked extremely seductive, and many cultivators couldn't help but be attracted to her. Fellow Taoists, my name is Hong Shan, and I will be hosting this auction. If there is anything wrong with my hosting, please forgive me. Hong Shan's voice was sweet and greasy, causing people to feel numb all over. There were many cultivators below the stage who were not in the VIP seats, and they all stared at Hong Shan with blazing eyes, unable to take their eyes off her. Miss Hong Shan, are you the finale of this auction? Just name your price, and I'll only bid for your moment of spring. Suddenly, a cultivator jeered. Then, the other cultivators followed suit, and the surrounding atmosphere became extremely lively and playful. Hong Shan blinked her beautiful eyes, looked at the cultivator who jeered, and said in a tender voice, "Oh, young master, if you want Hong Shan's moment of spring, just come over and I'll give it to you." As soon as these words came out, the cultivator who jeered swallowed his saliva and involuntarily stepped onto the auction stage. He stared at Hong Shan with infatuation and said, "Miss Hong Shan, you said it, you." Unfortunately, before the cultivator could finish speaking, he took out a dagger and stabbed it at his glabella. Then, he screamed and fell off the stage. He quickly pulled out the dagger, and blood spurted out from his glabella. The cultivator clutched his glabella and rolled on the ground, screaming. Obviously, the dagger had injured his divine soul. Chapter 1947. Candle Dragon's Broken Wings. Is there anyone else who wants my daughter's night of passion? Hong Shan giggled, the charm in her beautiful eyes becoming even stronger. Unfortunately, in the eyes of many cultivators below the stage, this smile had turned into the smile of a demon, and no one dared to make a ruckus. Since there's no one else, then my daughter will start the auction. Hong Shan smiled, and with a light clap of her jade-like hand, the first auction item was brought up from the back. It was a crystal the size of a longan. However, Zhuowen could feel a surge of divine aura coming from it. Zhuowen was very familiar with this aura. It was the aura of a divine stone, but the divine energy within this crystal was too vast, countless times greater than all the divine stone on him combined. This is high-grade divine stone. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and immediately recognized the aura of this crystal. He had both low-grade divine stone and mid-grade divine stone on him, and this divine stone had an even denser aura than the two divine stone on him. It was either a high-grade divine stone or a top-grade divine stone. However, a top-grade divine stone was too rare. Zhuowen did not believe that a top-grade divine stone would be auctioned off in a mere auction, so he guessed that this was a high-grade divine stone. This is a high-grade divine stone. There are a total of 10 high-grade divine stone in this auction. The starting price is 100,000 low-grade divine stone, and each bid is at least 5,000 divine stone. Hong Shan laughed. The moment the high-grade divine stone was taken out, Zhuowen immediately decided to bid for this high-grade divine stone. The transformation of the heavenly armor star required divine stone, and the higher the quality of the divine stone, the greater the transformation of the heavenly armor star. However, the starting price of this high-grade divine stone was also out of Zhuowen's expectations. It actually required 100,000 low-grade divine sense. This was a bit too much. 110,000. 120,000. Not long after, the price of this high-grade divine stone had already soared to 300,000. This soaring momentum was extremely fierce. Zhuowen frowned. He did not expect the price of the high-grade divine stone to soar so quickly. Although he had a lot of divine stone on him, he did not have many either. After spending 300,000 to buy the star map and taking out some divine stone to transform the heavenly armor star, he only had about 900,000 low-grade divine stone on him. When the price reached 700,000, the number of people bidding decreased significantly. When it reached 800,000, there were only a few people bidding, 900,000. Zhuowen immediately added 100,000 lower-grade divine stone, and when he finished speaking, the surrounding people immediately quieted down, obviously not planning to continue bidding. After all, spending 1 million lower-grade divine stone to buy 10 upper-grade divine stone was actually a loss. When the maid handed over the 10 high-grade divine stones to Zhuowen straightforwardly paid the 900,000 high-grade divine stones, and the divine stones on his body had already run out. If I want to auction something now, will the Jianghong Trading Company do it? Zhuowen suddenly asked the maid. The maid was startled, and she said respectfully, "Esteemed guest, this is possible, but the item you are auctioning must be precious enough. Otherwise, Lord Sequoia will not stop the auction and come over to help you auction something." Zhuowen nodded and immediately transmitted a message to the maidservant. Immediately, the maidservant's expression changed. She hurriedly said, "This item is indeed precious. I have to report it to Master Hong Shan." With that, the maid hurriedly left the VIP seats. Zhuowen sat quietly. He planned to auction the fire spirit juice. This thing could not only increase the chances of a heavenly god advancing to a true god, but it also had another effect, which was to increase a cultivator's comprehension for a short period of time. Although it was only for a short period of time, to those cultivators who had encountered bottlenecks in their cultivation, this short period of increase in comprehension had unimaginable benefits. This was because they could rely on the increased comprehension to completely break through the bottleneck. It could be said that the preciousness of the fire spirit juice was innumerable. Zhuowen did not believe that Sequoia would not be moved. As expected, not long after the maid left, Sequoia stopped the auction, and then excitedly rushed to the box where Zhuowen was. Sequoia's behavior naturally attracted the attention of many cultivators to Zhuowen's box. They knew that usually, when the auctioneer temporarily stopped the auction, there must be an esteemed guest auctioning a precious item. Inside the box, Sequoia looked at Zhuowen with a smile and said coquettishly, "Esteemed guest, do you really have the fire spirit juice on you?" Zhuowen smiled slightly, and then took out half a barrel of fire spirit juice from his spirit ring and placed it in front of Sequoia. Sequoia looked at Sequoia Mountain, and her beautiful eyes were filled with shock. This was the first time she had seen so much fire spirit juice. She looked up and down at the young man in front of her. This person's aura was only at the late stage of the heavenly god realm, but he could possess so much fire spirit juice. He must have many secrets on him. However, these were the secrets of their guests, and their trading company would not ask too much about them. Sequoia's smile grew wider and wider, and her limpid eyes looked at Zhuowen with even more charm. She came to Zhuowen's side, almost sticking to Zhuowen's body, and said coquettishly, "Esteemed guest, can you sell this half-barrel of fire spirit juice to our Jianghong Trading Company? We will definitely give you a satisfactory price." Zhuowen looked indifferently at the seductive Hongshan in front of him and said, "What price can your company offer me?" Sequoia Mountain chuckled and said, 5,000,000 divine stones, are you satisfied with this price? Zhuowen sneered in his heart. Although he did not know the value of this half-barrel of fire spirit juice, he knew that it was definitely more than 5,000,000 divine stones. This Sequoia Mountain was trying to scam him. He, I still want to try putting it up for auction. Zhuowen said indifferently. Sequoia Mountain's brows furrowed, but they quickly smoothed out. She twisted her slender waist and climbed onto Zhuowen's chair. Her breath smelled like orchids, and her limpid eyes were watery. She said coquettishly, "Esteemed guest, are you still not satisfied with this price? Then what do you want me to do?" At this point, Sequoia Mountain's soft breasts almost touched Zhuowen's chest. Zhuowen was stunned. This Sequoia Mountain actually used a charm technique on him. She must be tired of living. Zhuowen snorted coldly, and he secretly activated all being formless, and an illusion technique was released from the depths of his eyes. Sequoia Mountain took a few steps back, and her beautiful eyes looked at the young man in front of her with shock. She had indeed used a charm technique on Zhuowen just now. Originally, she thought that it would be an easy task. After all, he was only a late-stage heavenly god cultivator. However, she soon realized that she was wrong. Not only did this young man break through her charm technique, he even backfired on her. "Miss Sequoia Mountain, what's wrong?" Zhuowen pretended to be shocked and asked. Sequoia Mountain smiled awkwardly and said, "I'm fine. Since you want to put it up for auction, I'll naturally do as you say. I'll take my leave now." After saying that, Sequoia Mountain put away the half-barrel of fire spirit juice and left the private room. After Sequoia Mountain left, Zhuowen's lips curled into a cold smile. It looked like the Jianghong Trading Company was not that fair. If he hadn't cultivated all being formless, he might not have been able to resist her charm technique. Sequoia Mountain went up on stage again, and the auction continued. Zhuowen did not bid on the following items as he was not interested in them. Moreover, he did not have many divine stones on him. The next item is a divine item that a previous guest wanted to put up for auction. Not only can this divine item increase the chances of a heavenly god advancing to a true god, but it can also increase a true god's comprehension for a short period of time, allowing them to break through bottlenecks. Sequoia Mountain's words immediately attracted the attention of the bidding cultivators. Some of the cultivators had already guessed the next item, and all of them revealed fiery expressions. The instant the half-barrel of fire spirit juice was placed on the auction stage, the surroundings fell silent. Many cultivators even gulped. This is half a barrel of fire spirit juice. I believe everyone knows about this item, so I won't waste any more time. The starting bid for this item is 1 million divine stones, and each bid must not be lower than 100,000 divine stones. Sequoia Mountain smiled. Zhuowen, who was sitting in the private room, laughed coldly. The starting bid for this half-barrel of fire spirit juice was 1 million divine stones. If it was put up for auction, the price would definitely not be lower than 10 million. Sequoia Mountain actually wanted to buy this half-barrel of fire spirit juice from him for 5 million divine stones. She was really greedy. 1,100,000. 1,500,000. As soon as the fire spirit juice was placed on the stage, the price soared rapidly. In an instant, it soared to 5 million divine stones, and the momentum of the price did not decrease. Soon, the price broke through 10 million divine stones, and then it rose to 15 million divine stones. However, after 15 million divine stones, the bidding voices decreased significantly. It was obvious that the price was high enough. 20 million. A crisp voice rang out from one of the private rooms. Instantly, no one made a bid. 20 million divine stones was obviously not something an ordinary person could bid. Zhuowen was also slightly shocked. He did not expect that this half-barrel of fire spirit juice could be sold for so many divine stones. It was really unexpected. At the same time, he thought about the pool of fire spirit juice that Xiao He had used to bathe in. He knew that the value of that pool was immeasurable. Of course, if others found out that he had the pool of fire spirit juice, he would definitely be hunted down by countless true gods. Even Void Sky Almighty experts might not care about their reputation and come to snatch it. After the half-barrel of fire spirit juice was auctioned, a servant girl brought 19 million divine stones and handed it to Zhuowen. Zhuowen knew that the remaining 1 million divine stones should have been taken by the trading firm. After all, there was a handling fee for auctioning things. There was no other way. Not long after the fire spirit juice's popularity died down, another divine object appeared in the auction house, causing a complete uproar. Ladies and gentlemen, this object is a remnant wing of the torch dragon. The great master of the Jianghong trading firm, Lord Wuhan, accidentally obtained it in the dangerous Sunset Valley. There is no need for Sequoia Mountain to explain the torch dragon's reputation. Everyone should know about it. In the private room, Zhuowen stood up abruptly with an excited expression. He did not expect to encounter the torch dragon wing in this auction. Although it was only a remnant wing, it was enough to help him cultivate the torch dragon nine-headed infants. This object must be auctioned at all costs. Zhuowen clenched his fists, and his eyes were filled with coldness. The reserve price of the remnant wing of the torch dragon is 2 million divine stones, and each bid must not be lower than 100,000, Sequoia Mountain said with a smile. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.